I cannot tell you how good it feels to be back. Kind of a different setup, guys. What's going on? Welcome to the new crib. Still getting used to it. I've only done some tests. This is my first official live stream. I got fiber internet now, so we should be strong as hell in terms of that. But all my tests, my sound tests, my lighting tests, my video tests, all that stuff has been working out just fine. So I don't anticipate any problems as we move into this new space. For those of you following along at home, we have been absent here on the channel for the past, 8 days. I think last Sunday before last, we did a final watch along in the old house. And then I've been spending the last week or so transitioning into this new place and, most importantly, cleaning up my old house, which took Elizabeth and I a full week to do. If we would have hired somebody, it would have been like $2,000. It was a 5-bedroom, humongous house. So we had to do it ourselves. Plus, I had to unpack here. I had to get the new YouTube setup ready. And as I'm talking here, just let me know how it looks, how it sounds. I'm going to give you guys a quick little tour of the place here in just a minute. But just a busy week, a lot going on. So I've been kind of doing my best to eyeball the wrestling news just so whenever I had a free day, and that being today, I was going to come up at my first available minute and basically just do a catch-up podcast. I didn't even know what to put on the thumbnail because we've missed, a whole week's worth of stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my face on the thumbnail and let you guys know that we're going to be streaming on Tuesday night after NXT to basically, it's not going to be like a winged eagle where I'm really going to be reading you articles and really diving deep into some of this stuff, because a lot of these stories are a little bit old and you guys have already heard about them, talked about them and whatnot. I just kind of want to catch up, and this is going to be a very, very casual podcast. So much of a casual podcast that I actually have a frosty beverage open, and I never drink on podcasts, but I'm off tonight. It's my first night streaming back. Worked really hard to get this place set up, so I feel like I've earned it. Cheers to you guys, and thank you so much for being here. And we're going to get into basically all of it here tonight. I luckily, picked a pretty good week to move because I didn't miss a ton of stuff in terms of wrestling news. There's only a couple of stories we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the ESPN review of WrestlePalooza. We'll talk about the Masha Slamovich stuff. The PWI 500 is out. Very kind of minor-ish stories, I should say. Nothing too earth-shattering this week in the world of wrestling news. But also, we had a lot of TVs, and for one of the, rare few times on this podcast, you're going to hear me talk a lot about NXT because NXT and TNA are doing their invasion, or should I say showdown, as it's now going to be called. And I kind of saw what they did last week. I saw the highlights of Victory Road and No Mercy. Plus, as I was getting ready for the podcast here tonight, I was kind of eyeballing what was going on NXT as the two companies, as it were, are picking their teams for October 7th, which is going to be NXT and TNA Showdown. It was originally Invasion. It's been changed to Showdown, and that's going to be going head-to-head with AEW, and we're going to be talking all about that later. But you're probably going to hear me talk a lot about NXT and TNA in this one because we have a lot to talk about, including a brand new NXT champion as Ricky Starks beat Obafemi at the pay-per-view, or Ricky Saints, I should say, beat Obafemi at No Mercy, making fans wonder if that's going to be a call-up for Mr. Oba, and I hope that it is because that man is badass. So tonight's going to be pretty much just a casual chat, just kind of me getting acclimated to this new space. It's a lot smaller than the humongous, obnoxiously large room I had in the old house, and I was really ready to simplify that. I had a great time building out that space, but it was just too much space. When we moved into that 5-bedroom house 5 years ago, Elizabeth, wanting to give me as much YouTube freedom as she could, insisted. I couldn't even fight her on it. She insisted that I take the master bedroom in that place and make it my YouTube room, which was a lot of fun. I could display all my videos and my collectibles, and I had, 1,000 fucking square feet to work with in that place. It was humongous, plus a giant bathroom, huge walk-in closet, everything I had in there. And so now we're just being a little bit smarter. We don't have the use for 5 bedrooms anymore, so we shaved off 2 bedrooms, and Elizabeth and I are now going to buddy up because I never needed a room. I just need a space. So I've created myself a nice little cubicle here. Let me show you around. let me show you around. So here's where I sit, right? And I already kind of had this idea when I moved. I basically drew it up. Once we found where we were going to move and everything, and I got the floor plan, I kind of drew up how I wanted everything to look. And I wanted my main monitor to be where my camera is and just facing straight back. At the old place, I was facing this way, using a third monitor going back this way with all that shit behind me. Now this is more of a face-to-face setup. I like this a lot better. And I just, went to Home Depot, bought 4 brackets and 2 pieces of wood and a stud finder and nailed myself up some shelves and just hand selected a random few items out of my gigantic collection inventory that is now all in storage to display up here. So this can be ever changing. I can change this around as we go. But I kind of had an idea of how I wanted it to look. And I got to say, when I got in here and set all this up, it is exactly like I drew it up. I didn't run into one problem. Everything came together exactly how I envisioned it in my mind. And that really saved me a lot of time to get up here streaming because I didn't have any hurdles or any things that I wasn't expecting or shit, how do I deal with this? The only thing I didn't take into consideration, I need a little bit more light on this side. So I have a lamp. So if I turn it off, you see it gets a little dark. So I just need to put another light over here, which I have ordered already. So I'll have that set up, and then I need a fan because I'm in a little cubicle that I made for myself. And the fan that I already have sitting right here, which you guys can't see, is too loud. So I just need one little light and a little fan. Other than that, we are ready to rock, and this is much easier. It's much more streamlined. My setup isn't as elaborate as it used to be. I would have to switch around HDMIs and fix my monitors and then plug in my mic. And now everything is ready to go. I just plug it, hit play, and we're ready to go. So I have really been able to simplify and streamline the podcast setup here. And I'm really looking forward to this for the future and going forward. So we're here now, and I still have, a few little tidbits and things to work out and to organize. But for the most part, I'm here and I'm ready to rock. So the tour behind me, obviously what you see behind me is I just put up a shelf with random stuff on here. Elizabeth bought me this no rules sign, and you got just random crap, Money in the Bank, couple of my championship belts, and picture of Elizabeth over here dressed as Bret Hart, and then a picture of Bret Hart over here also dressed as Bret Hart. A couple other random, got the Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid All Valley Championship karate tournament poster there, and a few other of my favorite things like Bub and Sega Genesis games and a picture that Elizabeth's daughter painted for me, and some wrestling figures, my Shawn Michaels plaque, and then a couple of keepsakes that belong to my father. And just made a little display shelf back there, and then I outlined the perimeter with LED lights, which I currently have set to blue. And of course, the Himalayan salt lamp did survive. I found that in a little corner, and this is where I'm hoping Tito's going to hang out. He's already been hanging out on this table a lot. My dad built this table in the 60s, and I still have it. And I use it and I love it, and Tito likes to sit on it. So I'm hoping as I'm streaming and as we do watch-alongs on Sundays that he'll wind up over there, or he could wind up right here as well, which is also, a place where he can sit. And I've kind of got an L shape. So in terms of how this looks from the outside, here's what I did. I bought one of those room dividers, which are basically like stripper poles. You don't screw them in. They're just loaded on a spring, and you tighten them between the floor and the ceiling. And then I bought big, heavy 40-pound studio sound canceling curtains and created a whole little cubicle here for me. So here's what it looks like from the outside, from the bedroom. I got the TV mounted on the wall there, and this is with the curtains pulled back. And that's kind of that's where I sit right there in that chair. And that's how it looks like, or that's how it looks from the outside. And then here's how it looks like when it's closed. And I'm inside there. That's my little lair. That's where I live. And I'm in here right now. And then from where I'm sitting, here's what it looks like, at my screens and then up at the top. So I put the big studio curtains on the divider, and then I also lined the wall because I share a wall with Elizabeth's daughter. So I've aligned that with soundproofing, and we've got ourselves a nice little podcast studio in here, and I fucking love it. It's a little hot because I need to get a fan, but other than that, this is pretty much the setup, and I really like it. So if there's anything you guys would like me to do to improve it or anything like that, I think I can work with the lighting behind me a little bit. I thought those LEDs would be much stronger, so I might want to LED light the shelves. Something like that I might do in the future, but this is going to be how it's going to look, at least for right now, because we need to get back to business, and I can't be screwing around with this shit forever. We got to get back to talking wrestling, and that's what we're here to do tonight. So there's a little update, what I've been doing. It's been a really, really busy week, but I'm glad it's over. Elizabeth was the absolute MVP of this move. I worked more on this house. She worked more on the old place, and together we knocked it out, and it took us about 9 days in total to kind of just get everything from start to finish, and now we are ready to rock. So thank you guys for your patience. It's been a while since I've been up here. I was really hoping I was going to come up here last night after Raw, but I could tell the way the day was going, there was no way I was going to be ready. And I was still off today, so I'm like, you know what? It's pretty rare, and we don't do it often, but Tuesday night stream it is, and we're just going to kind of casually catch up on everything that I missed. And that's what we're here to do now. So thanks to everyone for being here. I'm going to say hello to the chat, which is located a little bit differently now, but I can still see it also on watch-alongs. I'm still going to be facing this direction, which is where I faced at the old place. But before I was using a third monitor, which I've now ditched, and watching the show here. Now I'm going to watch it over here, so I'm still going to be facing the same way. Nothing's really going to change with that. And speaking of that watch-along, we have already scheduled that for this coming Sunday, No Mercy 1999. I forgot to put the thumbnail up here. But the link is already up for this coming Sunday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. I've only got a 2-monitor setup now, and I don't have a view of the television. So if we want to watch any of the NFL game, I might have to have that on my phone or change up how we do that on Sunday nights. But we're going to be watching No Mercy 1999. I put up a post on YouTube a day or two ago and basically asked you guys to drop your selections, and a bunch of you mentioned No Mercy 99. So I'm like, done. And I remember that show because I was I had a female roommate at the time, and she was out of town, and her brother was staying with us, and he watched the entire pay-per-view with me. Not a wrestling fan at all, and I remember him sitting on the couch. We both had a couple beers, and I'm like, I'm about to watch this wrestling pay-per-view if you want to watch it, and he did, and he loved it. He was blown away by the ladder match. That predated all the TLC stuff that they did in No Mercy in 1999. So we're going to be watching that this coming Sunday, so just keep that in mind. Let's see. Killicam 0714. Good to see you. Doug Unfunny. Yachiro is in the house. Yeah, look who decided to come to work. I know. I've been busy. Trust me, I've been working. I have been working. You should see Elizabeth's hands. She has chemical burns all over them from all the bleach and shit. Like, we've been working our asses off, Yachiro, so don't worry, I'm working. Plus, I got my regular job. Finally back to my side hustle. I'm very happy about that, too. Garrett Osborne, good to see you. Hey, yo. You got to do it like that. Is there a Dynamite watch-along tomorrow? I wish there was, but I'm back to work tomorrow night. It is the 6th anniversary of Dynamite tomorrow. I believe it's a 2.5-hour special, and we will run through what we're going to see tomorrow on Dynamite. Looks to be a pretty decent show. Good to see Billy. Yeah, didn't know Greg moved. What I did, I moved. I'm here now. And I really missed apartment life. That house was too much to keep up with because if there was a repair or something, obviously the landlord, the owner, would take care of it, but I had to work a lot more. Some of the repairs I had to do myself, and it was just a pain in the ass. Apartments are so nice and easy, and they have amenities out the ass in this place, beautiful pool, gym, all this crap. So we found a nice place, so I'm really happy to be here and just be out of the damn house because it was just too much house. It was too big. Too big. Don't need all that space. Colin Wright, happy you're here, man. Good to see Ajax Johnson, Mike Rouse, Nick Musser, It's Robert Tatanani is here as well. We got David Brown, Max Pokebra, Sonic Plays 64, MJ Parker, Eric Guzman. We have Zach Palgett, World Superior. I'll be talking about the Masha Slamovich news. Don't worry. Nate Dogg is in the house. Larry Carroll, good to see you. Thank you for that. I'm glad I'm sounding good. We've got Victor Colon in here as well. Ben Espinoza, TY or Ty probably. WWE fan is here. Jake, the original Tribal Chief. Good to see the Juliet in here as well. Jay Lambo, Mike Rouse, did the picture freeze? Not on my end. Like I said, I had the strongest internet I could possibly purchase at the old house, which was Spectrum. It was just the best I could find. But here, I've got fiber. I've got AT&T fiber, and I was able to dial it into my phone plan and pay practically nothing for it for like 10 times stronger internet. So we shouldn't have any problems here at all, Mike Rouse, I don't think. But let me know if you guys experience any problems on your end, because like I said, I've only done a few tests, and I haven't run into any problems at all. And I feel pretty confident in this setup and the way the internet is going to run here and things like that. So we are in a good spot. Let's see who else. Billy Sellers, good to see you. Anybody else chiming in, thank you very, very much for being here. Don't know what kind of an audience we're going to have tonight, but please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button so we can start getting into some wrestling news, and we've got a bunch of it. Let me just refocus here, and I think we're going to start off with this. I didn't take a lint roller to my windscreen, so it's a little dirty. I'm sorry, but I think we're going to start out with that there WrestlePalooza ESPN shit, because it tickled me. I needed a laugh this week. It was busy, moving, stressful. So I needed something to laugh about, and I'm really happy about this next story because I laughed my ass off. All right, let's talk about it. So this week, well, as we know, one of the last normal live stream that I did in my old house was the WrestlePalooza and All Out review. And we talked about WrestlePalooza and the shittiness of the John Cena and Brock Lesnar match and how, the show was fine. There was some things about the show that I really liked. I really enjoyed, I think I'm in the minority in this, I really actually enjoyed the Stephanie McMahon Hall of Fame announcement. I believe she deserves to go into the Hall of Fame for everything she did as a character. I don't really care about what she did behind the scenes. None of that stuff really interests me. I'm thinking about it more of her wrestling character. I'm not looking at her Hall of Fame induction as, Stephanie McMahon, this trendsetter type of shit. She was just a tremendous character back in the late 90s and early 2000s and all the way up until she started having kids when she was on TV. She was so good, and I believe that she deserves to go in the Hall of Fame for those performances alone. And I really enjoyed how The Undertaker was the one that came out and told her. I thought that was all really, really cute and wholesome. I also very much enjoyed the Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky championship match, which was the highlight of the show. But the rest of the show was just not much. And it was WWE talking all that smack, or not smack, but they were hyping it up. You're going to see industry-changing surprises and blah, blah, blah. They're just so hyperbolic with that shit. And they talk all this game and all this hype, and they deliver a very average and mediocre show. Like I said, it wasn't bad. What did I grade it that night? I don't even remember. I would imagine I probably graded it somewhere between somewhere in the C's. C minus, C, C plus, somewhere in there. I doubt I gave it a B. If I did, it had to have been a B minus because that show was not any better than that. But it wasn't the worst pay-per-view ever. It was just whatever. It was just a mediocre show, and I was pretty surprised that it was a mediocre show considering a couple of factors. Number one, it was the first pay-per-view or PLE available on the new ESPN app. This was their launch. Also, because WrestleMania is probably going to be in Saudi Arabia a lot in the future because the Saudis are probably going to buy the damn company at some point, we heard the stories of WWE wanting to make WrestlePalooza one of their big 4, big 5-ish pay-per-views. And I think they were off to a really, really bad start if that's what they wanted to do. If they wanted to get this thing off right, they would have had a big surprise, or they would have had a big return, or a major title change, or maybe a heel turn, or something like that that maybe we didn't see coming. But they didn't have any of that at all. So when they look back to the first ever WrestlePalooza, what are we going to look back at? A so-so main event? A John Cena and Brock Lesnar match that you didn't really understand the point of? A mixed tag that I don't even think would rank in the top 10 mixed tags ever? So what are we talking about here? So the show was just okay, and that's it. And you know what? It's okay to have an okay show. Just try to do better on the next one. But what wound up happening is this week, Andreas Hale, who's a sports writer for ESPN, he gave his review of the show, and in that review, he graded the show overall a C grade, which is pretty fair. I think a lot of fans graded it the same thing. And for some reason, this regular, totally rational, totally hinged, normal human opinion raised the ire of mostly the tribalists and some in WWE, where they were, quote, surprised that an ESPN writer gave the show a C grade, and this story was front and center on ESPN's homepage. And so a lot of fans found that shocking. They found that surprising. I want you to listen to me here. The fans found honesty surprising. No wonder this country is in the shape it's in right now, to quote Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach. It's because of bullshit like this. JBL, on the Something to Wrestle, said that ESPN should have lied. They should have pretended it was the greatest show ever. Yeah, you wonder why this company's literally hand in hand with MAGA. That is about as MAGA as it gets. They must be stroked at all times. WWE must have just assumed that ESPN was going to join them in their collective circle jerk, but ESPN said right from the start when the deal was made that there would be a separation of church and state when it came to their coverage of the show and airing the shows. And so if they have writers or they have journalists that want to write a story or an opinion piece on these shows, they're going to have free reign and full freedom to do that, which is the way it fucking should be. And so for the people that are surprised and have this belief that ESPN should have just, taken the Fox News approach and said that this bumbling fucking moron that's on TV every day, rambling incoherent sentences, sounding like a guy doing a book report who never read the book, and they're sitting there talking about him like he's a fucking genius. You really want to go that route? You really want to bring that bullshit into pro wrestling now? Jesus Christ. And I think WWE, I've said this before about them, they've got this arrogance about them that I truly don't think that they even realize that fans are starting to get turned off by them. And Triple H has always just had the sour taste in his mouth about the fans. The honeymoon is clearly over. You know, everything was riding high when Triple H first took over. We had Vince McMahon out of our lives. And even though Triple H isn't my favorite, I'm still much happier with him than I was with Vince. But that period is kind of over now. Fans are starting to get a little more critical, a little more vocal about things that they don't like. And of course, we know how Triple H reacts to that stuff. He has never been able to react well to criticism at all. He's the biggest fucking bitch that's ever existed, ever. And he doesn't like to hear it. And if anything, it just makes him angrier at us. And the only good thing about this is that Vince McMahon is not in charge anymore and Triple H is not bulletproof. You know, back in 2015 when he cut that promo, I'm going to go with my friend Mark and send a tweet and a Vine and all that shit. You know, that was him just basically saying, fuck you to us. But he can't do that anymore because if ratings and attendance and creative all goes to shit, you know, he's the head coach. He's going to be the first one. He's going to be the scapegoat. So he doesn't have, you know, a protected job anymore as much as he did maybe with Vince McMahon. So Triple H, even though he might be annoyed by us or he might be annoyed with the fans that are being a little bit more vocal or critical, you know, I don't think he wants to get in the habit, you know, of basically saying, if you don't enjoy what we do, then you are our enemy. I mean, for those of you living outside the United States, you got to be watching us and being like, what the fuck is going on over there? You know, this is I don't know. It just feels like it all ties in. People just want to be bullshitted. They want to be fed, spoon-fed propaganda and nonsense. We're going to have the greatest show ever. Surprises, industry changing, blah, 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 blah. And then they deliver shit. And then it's reported as, hey, that wasn't a very good show. And then they're mad about it. Instead of being mad at the opinion, just do fucking better. If the show was good, it would have gotten raver reviews than it did. So the fact that they're directing their anger at this one dude, Andreas Hale, one guy, out of the slew of writers and reporters and journalists they have working there at ESPN, this one guy makes one opinion piece on the show and people are like mad about it. Like, do you really, is that what we want to be doing? We want to just pretend? What are you going to do? Instruct the writers and the journalists to just praise the show even if it sucks? Just to brainwash these fans even further than they're already fucked up? Just to give the tribalists more things to whack off to? ESPN said it was great. You know, you really want that dishonesty? You really want that bias in wrestling? I mean, it already exists, you know, in a lot of forms. You know, ESPN is a major sports network here. Their integrity needs to be remained intact. And this idea that they should have lied to protect WWE's feelings, this is the fuck your feelings crowd, by the way. This is the anti-cancel culture crowd. This is the anti-snowflake crowd who are acting like complete and total fucking snowflakes. Can't handle an honest report? Oh, nut the fuck up and do better next time. What the hell is the matter with you? Like, I don't understand. I just don't understand, like, the outrage in this when you should take that instead of being mad about it and looking to lash out and blame. Look at your big fat fucking nose in the mirror, Triple H. You are the reason that show got a C grade. Maybe book a better show. Maybe stop sticking only 5 matches on these things. Give us some more action. We have 5-match cards that are lasting 4 hours because we've got an unlimited amount of stupid video packages and commercials to sit fucking through. Plus all of their promotion of all their other dumb shit. If you just shave some of that off, you could add 3 more matches to the show. Add a couple of more bangers there. Fans might go home a little bit happier. But everything is so condensed and just so, there's a WWE, way and formula of how they present their TV and their PLEs and stuff. And sometimes it just gets a little bit old, so all you have to do if you read a report like this is do better. And that's where this could actually be a good thing. Because I seriously doubt WWE's going to whine like the little bitches that they are to ESPN and say, I need you guys to say good things about us. That would be, I just can't see that happening. ESPN said right from the go that there's going to be a separation of this stuff. So the writers can say whatever they want. So I don't think WWE's going to come in and raise enough stink to where ESPN is going to say, okay, we're going to tell our writers to only be nice to you from now on. Because apparently you can't handle anything else. Those same fans that always say shit, Tony Khan can't handle criticism. What the fuck are you talking about? This is not being able to handle criticism. Open your fucking eyes. This is bad. Like the fact that they were upset about this and they believe in their hearts that writers for ESPN should lie. If the show is bad, weak, or it underdelivers in any way, you should lie about it? Sorry, that was a little close. You should lie? You should lie. Jesus Christ. So lying is a better option than just putting on a better show. Crown Jewel is coming up in just a couple of weeks. The good thing about these PLEs is you have one every 3 fucking days. So if one of them sucks, just do better next time. And that's why this can be a good thing. Because I don't think ESPN is going to budge if WWE whines to them and says, we just want your reporters to be nice to us. I don't think that's going to work. So they are going to continue to publish their unbiased opinions about the show, and they're going to grade the show as they see it. And until you get one that's way out of whack, because the way Andreas graded the show is the way a lot of fans did. The majority of the fans all gave WrestlePalooza a C grade. And they all had the same opinion. Pretty much everything sucked except for that women's world title match, which was tremendous. But the mixed tag was just okay. The main event was just okay. Everything else was just okay. So the pay-per-view got an okay grade. He didn't give it an F. He gave it a C. A C is what they're all butthurt about? Jesus, man. All you got to do is just do better on the next one because you have PLEs every 5 seconds. So Crown Jewel is coming up on October 11th. Which incidentally starts at 5 a.m. here for me in California, which is going to be fun. But that card is shaping up to look pretty good. So, this should all be forgotten. The fact that this was even a story, the fact that this even upset people was kind of silly to me because I'm like, you're going to have another pay-per-view, another PLE in just a couple of weeks. If that one delivers, you're going to get positive stories. And I believe based on how the card is looking, like I don't give a single gluten-free fuck about those stupid Crown Jewel championships. I actually hate them, but I am looking forward to the 2 matches, specifically Cody and Seth. And I've been saying for 3 years, since Cody tore his pec, the next time those 2 guys get in the ring together, Seth will win. And I 100% believe that. He will win at Crown Jewel. And I was always thinking and assuming that when Seth gets that win back, it's going to be for a world title. I was close. They're both already world champions. They get the big, ugly green job and a fucking ring. Yay. So that's what they get there. But I'm intrigued by that match. Also, Stephanie Vaquer and Tiffany Stratton should be fun. John Cena and AJ Styles should be fun. They could bounce right back here and deliver a home run at Crown Jewel. Then Andreas and anybody else who's covering the show might give them better reviews. And then you know what's going to happen? They're going to smear it all over Monday Night Raw. They'll probably drop the name of the writer. So-and-so at ESPN gave it a 10 out of 10. As soon as they get a good one, they're going to whack off to it publicly. And they're going to remind us and remind us and remind us and remind us. That's what they do. But you get a bad one, and then they're butthurt about it, and of course they ignore it. They're never going to post a bad one or an average grade. Andreas Hale of ESPN gave WrestlePalooza an average grade. We're so thankful for the, they're not going to do that. So once they get a good one, they're probably going to talk about it. And they're probably going to publicly just stroke themselves off to a good review that's actually honest and not made up bullshit. So to the JBLs and the wrestlers like him and the fans like him that actually believe that ESPN should have lied, or not ESPN, but this fella, Mr. Hale here, should have lied, is just insane. It's absolutely insane that can be a thing people think should happen. No. This isn't like Meltzer. This isn't like the run-of-the-mill dirt sheets or the wrestling websites. This is ESPN. If you need integrity out of those writers when it comes to this stuff, and because that's the absolute way it's supposed to be. It's absolutely supposed to be this way. And so for people complaining about it, I think you have WWE brain rot. I think they've got you. They've sucked you in. And it's why when you walk into 80% of elderly homes here in America, what's on the TV? Fox News. They got you. They got you. So if you feel that way about it, then all I have to say to you is WWE's got you. So no, you shouldn't lie. You should be honest, always, like we are. WWE delivers a shit or average show, we say so. AEW delivers a shit or average show, we say so. What's the big deal? What's so hard about that? What is so hard about that? Why has everything got to be a war? Why is everything being, what if AEW didn't have a good show? Like, people were talking about AEW. They were bringing up when ESPN gave WrestlePalooza the shit grade. Well, All Out wasn't any better. I'm like, who the fuck is talking about All Out? There's nothing to do with it. This particular write-up is on WrestlePalooza. That's what it's about. Why are you bringing up All Out, which, by the way, was a better show, but it didn't have to be that way. I'm not saying All Out was a better show because I'm pro AEW and anti WWE. I'm saying it was a better show because it was a better fucking show. That's why. But you can turn right around and Crown Jewel can be a much better show than what the hell is next? Wrestle Dream. Crown Jewel can blow Wrestle Dream out of the water for all we know. We don't know yet. All we know is for this particular pay-per-view, these two shows that went almost head-to-head, they overlapped a bit, both aired on the same day. The AEW one was better. So what? What does that mean? It means nothing. WWE's still number one. They're always going to be number one. They're still drawing in billions and billions and billions of dollars. And who cares if AEW outperformed them on one pay-per-view? There's 25 pay-per-views a year between these two companies. And they come around every couple of weeks. So this is just one of them. Let it go. Move on. They gave it a C grade. Who cares? The fact that anybody spent more than 5 seconds giving a shit about this at all was just bizarre to me. And of course, I was busy doing everything with my move. I was completely unsettled. But I was scrolling my phone, and I was just like, huh? What? I was just getting a huge kick out of it. I'm like, this is funny. WWE thinks they should just lie. That's just, to me, that's funny. That makes me want to have a sip of beer. Let's talk about, hey, this is fun. We usually don't give this much press or much play when it comes out every year, but this year's PWI 500 has been released. And a couple of interesting notes here. Number one is that Cody was number one, and I don't even remember last year. Was he number one last year too? I feel like he would be, right? He probably would be. I don't know. Cody might have been number one here for the second year in a row. Not totally sure. Here is the top 10. Cody Rhodes in at number 1. Jon Moxley, number 2. Gunther, number 3. Hangman Page, number 4. Goto, number 5. Jey Uso, number 6. Swerve, number 7. Seth at number 8. Mystico at number 9. And Will Ospreay rounding out the top 10. Interestingly enough, Roman Reigns did not make the list at all. He didn't meet the criteria. He didn't wrestle enough matches to even make the PWI 500, which is really interesting. If there's any other interesting numbers there you want to mention, let me know over there in the chat. Yeah. Robert 27, this Sunday is WWF Bad Blood in your house 28 years. When I was trying to decide which watch along to do, I didn't realize that this Sunday is October 5th. Had I realized that, I might have, wait, have we even done that one? I don't think we've done it. I might have scheduled that in your house to watch, but it was only a 2-hour in your house. So I did think about it. But then when I put the post up and everybody recommended No Mercy, I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to do that one. But this coming Sunday is October 5th, which will be the 28th anniversary of In Your House Bad Blood. And of course, I always relate that date to the passing of Brian Pillman, who died like the night before in Minnesota. And that whole show, the cloud of his death was hanging over the show. It was fresh. You know, everybody was kind of still in shock, and they all had to work. Hart Foundation had to work. Brett had to work. Owen had to work. Austin had to work. Sonny, a lot of people were there and trying to process that. And that was the first death that really kind of shook me a bit, because, you know, Kerry Von Erich and the other Von Erichs and Eddie Gilbert, even Joey Morella, I kind of heard about those after the fact. You know, I didn't hear about Joey Morella until weeks after. I think I read it in a magazine. Same thing with the Von Erichs. With Kerry, I remember learning that like in a magazine, like a month later or something. I had no idea. So same thing with Eddie Gilbert and any other death that had happened or I had experienced up until that one in 1997. You know, that one was just really weird because Pillman was on TV. Brian was there doing an angle, a big angle with Goldust, and Marlena was about to turn, and they're about to do this whole thing. I was really interested in that because Pillman really hadn't done much in WWE since coming in because he was so physically limited. And I remember getting really kind of intrigued by what they were doing there with Goldust and Pillman and Marlena. And it was never to be, and that death was rough. And I remember just kind of being a little bit shook by it. And I always said that's the one that the floodgates literally opened after that. There's Owen and Rude and Perfect, Elizabeth and Hawk and Crash Holly and Test and, you know, and all of them. Just, it never ended. Eddie and Bulldog and my God, it just, the Earthquake and Boss Man and Jesus, man. So Sherry, I mean, everybody passed away, and it just felt like once Pillman happened, phew, it was like one every day, and it was nuts. Okay, thanks for that, Ben Espinoza. I've been, I forget the fella's name. I follow him on Twitter. Oh, Brian Solomon. That's right. I've been watching his updates on the life and times of Gorilla Monsoon. Sounds like you put a lot of work into that book. That might be worth a look and a read for sure. Joshua, Dirty Dom should have been number one by a mile. I know Dom didn't even make the top 10, but Dom has a future. My God, that guy, he's my number one. He's my number one. Let me just. My God, that guy. All right, we're looking pretty good. I'm just giving myself a little sound look here. Okay, cool. Right on. All right, so let's talk about at least what I know of. Let me just kind of readjust here. What I know of this Masha Slamovich situation. So there's so much going on here. So, like, if this was if we were here last Saturday for the Wingy, we would have gone in depth on this. But I'm going to basically give you my take on what we learned and what I think about all of this. So Masha basically has been outed as being a piece of shit, an abusive piece of shit. Basically, domestic abuse allegations surfaced on Masha last week when a friend of her ex-boyfriend, who goes by the name Akira, he's wrestled for MLW and some various outfits. I've never even heard of the guy. So he's Masha's ex, and a friend of his released, kind of like in a Dropbox situation, a shitload of text screenshots that basically show clear emotional abuse, among other things, and admission of physical abuse, as she basically admitted in those text messages that she struck him and that she hit him. And for all of you proof people, there's no reason to believe that these text messages are fake. It's, if they're just not. So there's no reason to believe that at all. And so when you read, some of these exchanges here, it's very, I hate to say it, it's very white trash looking, it's just this toxic relationship. They're bitching to each other about rent money and stuff. I'm like, you're TNA Knockouts champion. You're worried about rent money? Like, how much is TNA paying you guys? What are you making, $40,000 a year or something? Like, what the fuck? Why are you struggling with rent? I know you're probably not making a ton of money, but the texts were just silly and just dumb bickering and just dumb shit that you would expect from like really young, like on drugs type of people. And she was really, really abusive in a lot of those text messages with the things that she was saying to him and the degrading things that she was saying to him. And she was supposed to face Ash by Elegance at Victory Road for the Knockouts title, but she was pulled from that match, and TNA is now they've begun an internal investigation into all of this. So Masha, her contract is up pretty soon already, and now TNA has launched this internal investigation, which I'm sure is going to uncover a lot of unsavory things about Masha, and this doesn't really bode well for her at all. So she was scheduled for a title match at Victory Road. She was pulled from that. Now there's an internal investigation. Akira finally posts a statement about this, a lengthy, long statement where he admitted several attempts at suicide. He put over all of his friends and people that he's worked with, his friends and family, for their support. A lot of talk about forgiveness and hope. And it was mostly, even though it was long and very dramatic, it was more in a positive light. And then Masha issued a statement, which you guys have all read. But in that, the very first thing she said, like sentence number 1, it was that I was in a mutually destructive relationship. So she had to make sure to let everybody know that, it went two ways, I suppose. But if you notice, she denied nothing. So for all you fans that always want to say proof, there's your proof in her statement. She's denying nothing. If she didn't hit him or do any of that shit, she would have been like, this is all a fabrication. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. None of this stuff happened, but she didn't do that. She said and admitted that she was in a mutually destructive relationship, and she even apologized and wished Akira well. And of course, with every single pro wrestler statement like this, whenever something happens, a lot of these statements look and sound and read the same. First of all, they're always on a notes app. It's always a screenshot because there's not enough characters for them to say all this bullshit. So they got to type it out on their phone, and then they got to screenshot it and then post it. And all of it is like, it's always about reflection and healing and all this stuff. They wouldn't have given a shit about reflection and healing if they wouldn't have gotten caught. You think Masha would have been sitting at home saying, I was really wrong, and and my behavior towards Akira, and I really want to make an apology to him and work on myself and heal myself and reflect on myself and try to do better. No, she had to get caught first. Now all of a sudden you want to heal and you want to reflect. Ugh. Guys, I promise you, you will never see me post anything like that on social media. I'm not going to get pissed and throw Elizabeth out the fucking window or something and then have to write this big, long app where I'm apologizing for human window throwing. And then I got to go reflect and heal, and I'm seeing a therapist about it and all that shit. It's just like the same. They all read the same. Every time somebody gets busted doing something fucked up, they always got to reflect and they got to heal. It's so transparent. Does anybody even believe this shit? You're not going to reflect and heal. I mean, you might now because you're forced to reflect and heal. And if you ever want to have a job, a well-paying job that is, in the pro wrestling business, you're going to have to repair this reputation. And it's and so that might be her only way out. Like if I really just put in the work and I do all this therapy and I do all this reflection and I do all this healing, and I make amends and I apologize for my actions. I apologize to the people I hurt, whatever, then, maybe there is still a chance for her. But most of the time, accountability is tough for them to accept. Tessa Blanchard, Velveteen Dream, did they ever take accountability for any of the shit they did? No. If anything, they're on the defensive. I don't remember Tessa's situation, but she sure as shit wasn't coming out and saying, I was wrong, I'm so sorry, I want to go around and personally apologize to every single person I offended. No. I think it was more of like a denial or, blowing it off or whatever, but not taking not taking the proper responsibility is probably the better word. And then, of course, Velveteen Dream, he's on the offensive. He thinks he's the victim. I'm like, dude, all you had to do is not direct message little boys, and you'd be in the main event of WrestleMania right now. Think about that. Think about if the only roadblock between you and the main event of WrestleMania is not texting little boys, and you can't do it. Jesus Christ. Sometimes I would like to think that if I had an opportunity like that, to be a pro wrestler and to really, really make some money, that I wouldn't Matt Riddle myself or Teddy Hart myself or Masha Slamovich myself. I would just know better, it's an opportunity of a lifetime. Very few people get a chance to do this. And if the only thing, that would ruin this for you is to be a piece of shit or an abusive asshole or a criminal or just an all-around loser in general, or a creep or a drug addict or anything like that, you got to keep your shit together, people. And so these relationships between, these young people, and they're toxic, and then they move in together, and I don't know, it's probably very, very common, throughout America. I'm just very lucky, I don't have this unbalanced nonsense with Elizabeth, or, we love each other, and it's just not so dramatic like that, where even when I was younger, I had friends that had some bad relationships, there was a lot of yelling. I was uncomfortable a lot of times around a couple of my friends who just had a relationship that they hated, and they just spent the whole time bickering and fighting and hating each other. I'm like, will you guys stop or just get the hell away from each other? Because I don't like any of this, but I guess, it's pretty common. But when you read those text messages and you read just that, the statements and the arguing back and forth, it's, paints a pretty good, clear picture of America, actually. Some of the relationships in your typical, middle to lower class, USA or whatever. But the fact that, the friend, the roommate who came out actually after Masha's statement and called bullshit. She called bullshit on the mutually destructive stuff, and talked about how, you didn't want me to move out because you didn't want to pay the extra rent. And that's when I'm like, what? This just sounds so regular, typical, every day. Even though TNA is not the biggest wrestling company, the fact that they're paying their talent, like, you would have to worry about whether or not you have an extra roommate in there or not. I think you could probably afford that place on your own. I don't know what these people are doing with their money, or how bad they are at budgeting, or what they're fucking spending it on. But, she's under contract to TNA. I'm sure it's not a multi-million-dollar deal or anything, but it's got to be worth something. It's got to be more than like 60 or 70 G's, wouldn't you think? For a contract like that, it's got to be. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it. You just go work somewhere else. Go work at Target and make that. So, like, I don't know. It just was a mess. It looked like a mess. And none of it looked very good for Masha at all. And I think she's going to be gone for a while. I don't think anybody's going to want to work with her, at least for the time being. And then it's going to be up to her how she heals and how she reflects in order to get herself, back into a reputation where wrestlers and promotions are willing to work with her. But a lot of people get forgiven. Fucking Austin Aries resurfaced recently, didn't he? So we always, Tessa, of course. Tessa is another one, and it's probably only going to be a matter of time before she actually is in WWE. WWE's bringing Brock Lesnar back, and they brought Hulk Hogan back. What's going to stop them from bringing in Tessa? What do they care? Brock Lesnar's name being dropped out of the mouth of Paul Heyman on Friday night as well, which is, we'll get into here in a minute. But anyway, the Masha stuff was just a mess. And Normally, I wouldn't even cover a story like that, but I started reading about it, and then the more text messages I read, I was like, ooh, this doesn't look very good at all for Masha. So we'll see what her future is coming up. All right, what's next on our list here? Okay, I told you guys we were going to talk a little bit about NXT, right? So last week, now we had NXT tonight, right? But last week on NXT, we had the big invasion. It was the title match between was it Trick and Oba. It was the Trick Williams Oba Femi champion versus champion match, and the TNA talent stormed the ring and attacked in this big angle, right? And one of the people that stormed the ring with the TNA talent was Matt Cardona, which was funny to see him because he so desperately wants to get back into WWE, and I just don't think it's going to happen for him. I think WWE's getting some sort of weird enjoyment, as am I gotta be honest, and maybe as are some of you, getting enjoyment out of them not hiring him. But I love Chelsea, and I shouldn't say that because Matt Cardona's a good dude. But the fact that he so desperately wants back in and he can't get back in, but here he is in NXT making an appearance for TNA, so he's kind of in there. I thought that was kind of cool. But they try to play that off as this big, shocking, oh my God, I can't believe they did this moment, which, you know, I've lived through way more exciting invasions than this one. So they stormed the ring. It's not that weird because the relationship, the working agreement between WWE and TNA has already been going on for a while. They've already had their talent on each other's shows. They have NXT stars holding all of the TNA titles, and it's just fucking silly. So we had that happen last Tuesday, right? Then fast forward to, I believe, last Friday night, right? Which was TNA Victory Road, which was last Friday. So, like I said earlier, Masha Slamovich was scheduled to challenge Ash by Elegance, the former Dana Brooke, for the TNA Knockouts title. Masha was pulled from the match because of the domestic abuse allegations, but then apparently Ash by Elegance is injured. So she came out on Victory Road and relinquished the title. Don't even know really what her injury is. I hope she's all right. But she couldn't work, which meant they had to have a battle royal to crown a new champion. And they would take the final two members of the battle royal and they would face in a match. So the final two in the battle royal was Ying Lee and Kaylani Jordan. So Xia Li, the former Xia Li, so basically two more NXT stars, and Kaylani Jordan won the TNA Knockouts Championship. So now that's another WWE star. This working agreement, it really does resemble the alliance or the invasion angle from back in 2001, because what drove me so nuts about that was that they didn't have anybody from WCW. They didn't have Sting and Goldberg and Flair and the NWO. They had none of those guys. So when you're doing this invasion, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Kane and The Undertaker against Shawn Stasiak and shit. So they didn't really have a choice there. But what annoyed me so much about the invasion is that everybody, the biggest stars on the opposition of the alliance were all WWE guys. Like, look who was on that final team. It was like Austin and Angle, right? And Shane. And the only WCW guys, I think, was Booker and I forgot I was at that show, but Booker and somebody else. So it was just like such a joke. You know, what kind of invasion is this? This doesn't even feel like WCW because Steve Austin is heading up WCW. Steve Austin is like the captain of the WCW team, but he's WWE champion, and the belts are going back and forth, and it was just silly because none of it felt like WCW was really coming in. It didn't feel like that. It was all downhill on the invasion when Austin briefly turned face and then turned back heel again. At the end of invasion, he joined the alliance, became their leader, just so he could continue his heel run. So it just didn't feel like WCW. So now we have this TNA and WWE working agreement, and TNA is just WWE's bitches. You know, it's always the TNA stars versus the NXT superstars. It's like WWE is reminding them every chance that they get how beneath them they are. And there's this belief, Santino Marella was the last guy to say it, but there's actually this belief, amongst some fans and some people in the industry, and the only thing that fuels this belief is the hate boner that people have for AEW, because any sort of rational mind wouldn't think this. But Santino was the latest person to come out and say that if TNA gets a TV deal, they'll be the number 2 promotion. Not without WWE flooding up your roster with all their stars, you won't. There's just no way. AEW is too big. We've already seen the numbers that TNA is likely to get for a TV deal. It's a fraction of AEW. AEW is working with, a lot more money. It's just not going to happen. The only way that would even be possible is if just it was WWE driving it. But TNA on its own, even with a TV deal, will not come anywhere near being the number 2 promotion. But if they tie themselves and attach themselves to WWE, or WWE eventually maybe absorbs them, then they're not going to be their own brand anyway. But I just think that that's an insane belief to have, and it's not really rooted in any logic whatsoever. Just learn some math. It's just look at the numbers involved here. It's just no, it's not. It's going to take a hell of a lot more than a TV deal, because I've watched TNA, and if that shit's on TV, it's not going to make it any better. It's TNA. So they have some good moments, and I was happy to see them draw their all-time highest crowd of 7,000 last month. Ooh, 7,000. 22 years they've been around. 7,000. And this is the number 2 company? Let's get real, please. But anyway, I do like that I've started to care about TNA, and I do wish them well. I just think that belief is an insane belief to have. So on Victory Road, Kaylani Jordan, an NXT star, has won the TNA Knockouts title after the forfeit. So that happened at Victory Road. Then, the next night, on Saturday, you've got NXT No Mercy, where Ricky Starks beats Obafemi to win the NXT title. That's a little bit surprising, kind of. But a lot of fans have been wanting Obafemi to be called up to the main roster for quite some time, and this might be it. Why would he take a clean loss to Ricky Saints if he's not going to be called up? So they might do it a lot of times in these situations. They do one more match. They do some sort of a rematch or something like that. So they might do one more for Ricky to retain, and then Obafemi goes to the main roster. But we might be looking at an Obafemi call-up here pretty soon now that he has dropped the title. So that was pretty surprising. And then also we had Jordan Grace. She defeated Blake Monroe. They had like a weaponized steel cage match that saw Blake Monroe actually cut the hair of Jordan Grace. But Jordan got the win with an air raid crash through the table. So I think it's tied 1 apiece now. So those two will probably run it back for one more, I would assume. Maybe at the next one, your rubber match, Blake Monroe will win that. And then maybe Jordan Grace goes to the main roster. That's the way I see that going. And also, at No Mercy on Saturday, that's when Ava, due to what happened last week on NXT, Ava announced that on October 7th, it's going to be NXT TNA Invasion. And they've taken the same Invasion logo from 2001 and reused it. And it's going to be on TV Tuesday, October 7th. And that, incidentally, is going to go head-to-head with AEW. So the Tuesday Night Wars are here. AEW's got a weird schedule next week. We'll talk about that later. But they're moving Dynamite to Tuesday, calling it Title Tuesday, but then putting Collision on Wednesday. So that makes about as much sense as the TNA and WWE working agreement does. So that's all weird as hell. But that's going to put Dynamite Title Tuesday head-to-head with NXT TNA Invasion. So next Tuesday, October 7th, is when that is going down. And I will be off that day. 1 week from tonight, I will be off. We could do a double watchy. Maybe a double watchy of that. How am I going to do that now that I have a simple... I'll figure it out. So yeah, we're going to do something next Tuesday then. We might cover this. Might be fun to cover NXT and TNA and AEW all at once. Yeah. Keep a lookout for that next Tuesday. We'll either do a watch along or we'll do a double show review. Not sure yet. So anyway, NXT TNA Invasion set for next Tuesday, right? But it's not NXT TNA Invasion anymore. It is now NXT TNA Showdown. And they've basically taken the same font of Invasion and just changed it to Showdown. And instead of the big V in Invasion, it's now the big W in Showdown. So that's what it's called. Apparently, Israel was unhappy with the name. I don't know why they would give a shit. I understand it's important to be sensitive to certain topics, especially with what's going on over there. I'm very selfish about the whole thing. I watch it from a distance. It's so disturbing and so upsetting that I honestly ignore it. And I know that's selfish, but I just don't think it's healthy to sit inside your house and watch cable news all day. I don't watch news. I don't watch the news at all. Nothing. I sure as shit wouldn't watch Fox News if there was a gun to my head. But also no CNN, no MSNBC, none of that stuff. I cannot watch the news. It's just for my own mental health, you know. I have good mental health. I have strong mental health. I'm pretty happy and confident, and I'm not depressed, and I want to keep it that way. And with the needless suffering and everything that's going on over there, it's so fucked up that, you know, my brain just shuts it down. I'm like, I can't let it in. I just can't, you know. I'm aware of what's going on. I know the situation, but I can't spend every day watching it, caring about it, protesting about it, you know. And that's admittedly, you know, maybe a selfish move, but man, you only have one brain. You only have one, you know, you only have one shot at your, you know, mental health and keeping yourself happy and stuff. And I just, you know, it's just too hard to like look at all that stuff. But, you know, at the same time, like, I don't care that they change the name. It's fine. If it upsets them or they're offended by it, that's fine. But of all the needless deaths and everything that's so fucked up over there, why would you even care? Why would there be time to care about what a pro wrestling company names its PLE? It's just so low on the priority list, it seems like it would be for me. If I was over there, or if I was in the middle of this and my life is in constant danger every second of every fucking day, the last thing in the world I'm going to care about is what WWE is naming their PLEs. But again, I can't speak for these people. I can't speak for the government or anything like that. But apparently that was a report that came out this week that I thought WWE would just ignore, but they didn't. And they've changed the name. So fine, change the name. That's all good. It's just, I couldn't imagine caring, you know, just think there so much more important things, you know, are happening to even have this on your radar. Who gives a shit? It's WWE. They're idiots. Who cares what they're called, what they call their shows? That's my view on it. But I'm not. I also don't care enough to be upset because I haven't looked at anything online yet. But I'm sure there's a large portion of social media that's also upset. I can't believe they changed the name in fucking Israel and all this stuff. I'm like, you know, it doesn't matter. Don't get mad. This is what I'm talking about. You can't live. It's got to be hard, I would imagine, to live a happy life with good mental health when you allow shit like that to piss you off. You know, Kid Rock was blowing away beer cans with an assault rifle, and they're over there talking about dangerous rhetoric and violent rhetoric. Fuck off. You know, that is such an extreme reaction to something so minor. What, there's a rainbow on your Coors Light, so you shoot it with an assault rifle? That sounds normal to you? You know, so like if you're mad about WWE changing the name, you got to let that one go. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit what they're calling a random Tuesday NXT? I don't care enough about that show to care what they call it. Call it Tiddlywinks. NXT TNA Tiddlywinks. That's fine. I'm unoffended by it. I just think that you didn't really have to change the name, you know? That's my view on it. I mean, there's plenty of invasion movies, you know, and there's plenty of invasion movies you can watch right now on Netflix. Is Israel mad at Netflix? Get all your invasion movies off there, you know? Like, I don't know. But to me, honestly, in situations like that, most of the time, I'm going to be indifferent. Don't think they needed to change it, but also don't care that they did. You don't need to fight. You don't need to have a side and everything. I'm like, hey, I don't really give a shit either way, really. I'm like, okay, if they went through the trouble to change the name, I thought it was unnecessary, but that they did it, who cares? It's an NXT show. If somebody's offended by WrestleMania, and they force WWE to change the name of WrestleMania, maybe I'll care a little bit, but I don't care. I don't care if it's Invasion or Showtime or Tiddlywinks. I don't care. Don't give a shit. So anyway, tonight on NXT, we saw pretty much the teams being formed for the big show next week. And I guess there's going to be a big, or two big matches featuring the men and the women. So they had the captains of each team in the ring. So basically all four captains, two women's captains and the two men's captains. For TNA, it was Santana and Kaylani Jordan, who is an NXT star who won the TNA Knockouts title at Victory Road. She's a captain of the TNA side. I don't know if this is her choice. They're kind of playing it off like she's a traitor or she's jumped ship or she's switched sides. So she's over there now. But really, she's under contract at WWE, but she's going to be on TNA's side. And then on the NXT side of things, it's JC Jane, the women's champion, and Ricky Starks, the men's champion. And throughout the night, they are basically going to pick their teams. And I only got the men's team. You guys are going to have to help me with the women. But the men's teams are going to be Ricky Saints, Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and Miles Bourne. That's 4, right? Yep. And then Team TNA is going to be Santana, Kazarian, Moose, and Slater. What's his first? Leon Slater, is that his name? And by the way, Slater and Javon Evans are going to face each other one-on-one at Bound for Glory, I believe, right? And the two of them teamed up tonight on NXT as well. I did not catch the women's teams. And I also didn't care enough, to be honest, about, I don't even know her name because I don't watch NXT. So is it Jasmine Minks or something? She's gone, but I didn't even know who she was. I think she was a member of Fatal Attraction or whatever, or Fatal whatever the fuck they are. But I didn't even know, like, I have no concept of her. Like, I don't even know really what she looks like. I mean, I saw the pictures of her, but I had no idea. And I know she's featured a lot on television. I just haven't really had much experience with her. So she left the company, and apparently she left because she just didn't think she was getting paid enough. And it was kind of a big story this week, but it's like, I don't even care about her, so I didn't even write it down. But I did see that she's gone from the company and the reason why, but boy, I could care less. I don't give a shit. Jasmine Minks or whatever, go do best of luck to you. Wish you all the best. I'm glad that that some people are just like, no, this isn't enough money for me. We should be paid more, so I'm going to go leave. And apparently they didn't want her to leave, but she left anyway, and money was a factor. So all the best to her. But like I said, I didn't catch the women's teams. Oh, okay, the Juliet. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, so $10 says Masha Slamovich was supposed to be in that spot before the domestic violence accusations came out. So she would have been in the spot that Kaylani Jordan was in because she was getting a title shot at the pay-per-view. But we had read that she wasn't scheduled to win that, but Ash was injured. So she might have won the title and been a captain over there. That might have happened. I guess they went with Kaylani Jordan because that was really all they could do. And now they have to put her over there to strengthen that side. It's the same thing that happened with the Alliance all those years ago. They had to bring in all the ECW guys to help beef up that roster, and then they had to turn a bunch of WWE guys, namely Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then who would follow? Everybody, Regal and Kurt. Oh my God! And Shane, of course, was heading them up. I can't remember. Was Big Show on the Alliance or did he stay WWE? I don't remember what he did. I don't remember what Big Show did. Was he around? Was Big Show around for the Invasion? Yeah, he was on that Survivor Series team, definitely. The Survivor Series team was Austin. No, it was Rock, Jericho, Kane, Taker, Big Show, maybe. Something like that. Anyway, what's next on my list? So that handles pretty much all of the NXT and TNA stuff up until now. We've got Bound for Glory coming up, which is going to have that big Dudley Boys and Hardy Boys match on there, which is going to be nuts. At Victory Road, I think they did an in-ring, right, with the two teams, and they did give a little bit of a nod to Edge and Christian, which was cool. So I don't think I'm going to be buying or ordering Bound for Glory, but I am kind of curious how that Hardys and Dudleys match looks physically, and I hope they don't DX and Brothers of Destruction themselves. That match, that debacle, that abomination, that fucking abortion in Saudi Arabia, Jesus, it could be that. Let's hope that it's not. All the best to the old men in that one. All right, so let's switch gears to WWE main roster stuff. So we had this past Friday was SmackDown. Now, SmackDown had a couple of, like I said, it was a few days old, so we're not going to review the whole show, but I want to talk about some tidbits here. Number one, the Paul Heyman promo that opened up the show. Once WrestlePalooza was in the books and it became apparent that the pay-per-view or the PLE Crown Jewel is going to be featuring those Crown Jewel championships again, which means two of those matches are pretty much decided. The men's and women's matches, it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And like I said earlier, I always said that the next time these two guys get in the ring together after that Hell in a Cell match, Seth Rollins will absolutely win, and he absolutely will win here. It's another reason why he probably lost at WrestlePalooza, because he's about to pick up a big win over Cody here at Crown Jewel, and I believe that he will. And so this was on Friday, I guess the first night to kind of ignite. Well, no, I'm sorry. The Monday before last, Cody and Seth were in the ring together. So now this was followed up by Heyman and Cody. So Heyman comes out, starts cutting his promo, and mentions he's just trying to get a rise or get some heat. I don't know what, but he talks about some random shit and name drops a couple of people, and then says, do you want to talk about the controversy and conspiracies surrounding Brock Lesnar? Like, why would he say that? Their relationship is already weird because he showed up at WrestlePalooza to do the intro. Cody referenced it last night on Raw. Is Seth aware of, what Heyman has cooking up here with Brock, and maybe they're heading towards a reconciliation? We don't even know. And Heyman, basically by saying that, it's just confirmation that WWE doesn't care. They don't care that he's a part of that lawsuit. It's just, and then they kind of flaunt it in your face like that. Oh my God, it's getting harder and harder to like this company, I swear. Just why even say it like that? Like, why bring up, these are they're not even conspiracies. Brock being offered a woman in a hotel room as a contract negotiating tool isn't the same thing as aliens. Come on. It is, this is a real actual thing that happened, and you're making light of it, or you're kind of like randomly referencing it for what? What was the point of that? So anyway, Cody Rhodes winds up coming out, and he wants to know if he's talking to the Oracle or the Advocate or the Wise Man. And before he can really get his answer, the Bronze show up, of course, and this leads to a brawl. Randy Orton comes and helps out. And I am actually, even though I don't give a crap at all about those Crown Jewel championships, they actually anger me. They annoy me. They're ugly and big and green and gaudy and obnoxious, and they fucking suck. I don't understand the point of them. There is no point of them. They're make-believe championships, even more make-believe than the already existing make-believe championships that are all over wrestling. These are even more make-believe than that. They're very, very make-believe. These were created to give Saudi Arabia this, illusion that they've got this prize over there, and I thought it was going to be mostly reserved for Saudi, but now they're taking it. Now Crown Jewel is going to Australia. They're going to be in Perth, and those championships are going to be on the line. Normally, I wouldn't care completely at all, but I do like the idea of Seth Rollins and Cody. I think that one can be fun, and I think Rollins is going to get the win there. Also on SmackDown, super fun match. Loved this. Sami Zayn in a U.S. Open Challenge defeats Javon Evans. That was great because Javon Evans debuted pretty much the exact same way Sami Zayn did. Sami Zayn made his debut on Raw 10 years ago against John Cena in a John Cena U.S. title open challenge, and that's when he came down to the ring, and he was doing this with his arms, and he threw his shoulder out, and then had to tell Bret Hart to tell Cena that he threw his shoulder out. Still worked a hell of a match with a dislocated shoulder. Well, how long was that match? 15 minutes? 20 minutes maybe? And he worked it with a dislocated shoulder. What a stud. And then was out for a year. So Javon was basically debuting the same way. I really loved that, and the match was spectacular. SmackDown has been largely a bore in recent weeks, so that match was easily, I believe, the highlight of this past Friday. I was slightly interested in the Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu promo. That was kind of fun. Fatu coming back, returning to TV, getting in Drew's face a little bit, and he got hit in the head with a Glasgow kiss, but he's a Samoan, so he no-sells that, and then takes Drew down and beats him with his own walking boot. I enjoyed that. So I don't think that Drew and Cody are going to be necessarily completely done, but Cody's got to work with Seth now, so Drew's got to do something. So maybe Cody and Drew was a one and done. You know, because if it wasn't a one and done, that means Drew is going to get another title shot, and he's going to lose that one too. So I feel like Drew doesn't need that anymore. I think Drew would be better off just not getting a title shot at all than getting one and losing again. So Drew and Fatu, though, that could be fun. I don't know if we're going to have that on Crown Jewel or not, but that match is incoming. And then in the main event of SmackDown, that was kind of a big one. Big triple threat, right? Tiffany Stratton defending the Women's Championship against Jade Cargill and Nia Jax. And this one was loaded with problems. And even with the problems it had, it was still a somewhat decent match. It was pretty good. There was a lot of fans online that loved it. But when I watched it, I'm like, okay, I got to see, because I heard how many fans, I heard all the fans that said that they loved it. And then I saw all the botches and the problems they had. I'm like, well, I got to see this for myself. And the match was still pretty good, but yeah, that was real bad the way it ended. So one of the biggest things to happen in the match was Jade Cargill getting busted open. And who was at the hands of that? Nia Jax. It's Nia Jax again. And the fans out there have a very short fuse when it comes to Nia Jax. Like, this is something that they should talk to someone about. They should go to therapy over this tick they have in their brain, that the minute that this woman does anything, even remotely wrong, they go apeshit. Oh my God, she did it on purpose. She has a history of this. She needs to go down to NXT. This 2018, 7 years ago, the Becky punch to the face. Yeah, Nia Jax has had some unfortunate situations happen. You know who else has? Rob Van Dam. Rob Van fucking Dam. In the 90s, he was known as reckless, as dangerous, and all that stuff, and we view him as a legend, so shut the fuck up. She has had some unfortunate luck, but this idea that she's doing it on purpose and that every time an accident happens and she's within 20 feet of it, the fans just automatically leap to the conclusion that it's automatically, no matter what, without even looking at it twice, her fault. La, 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 la. I don't want to hear anything else. It's Nia Jax's fault, no matter what. Any opinion to the contrary is just met with extreme rejection. They will not hear it. I find this very funny. Such a good illustration of the typical male in this world, you know, just insecure and crazy. And look, it was unfortunate, but when I watched that spot back, what it looked like to me was that it just, when you're shoved into the steps, it's up to you to land. And I think it was just unfortunate positioning, because I think, I'm not 100% sure, but the way it looked to me is that Jade got cut, because you saw that gash, right? That was a gash. It was gross. You could see her skull almost. So she got that by hitting the steps, and I think she got cut so sharply on the little handle holders, the things you put your hand in and you lift off the stairs. I think she hit the corner of that, or just hit that, and above her eye went right into the edge of those little hand circles there, and that's what gave her the gash. And that's just unfortunate. That's just dumb luck. She would have landed 6 inches higher or lower, it could have been a different story. It might have been worse, on her face or something like that, but she might have not gotten hurt at all. It was just the way her head landed. So Nia, when you watch how Nia threw her into the steps, it's pretty standard strength and force. When people get thrown into steps, Nia did it about the same way the rest of them do. So maybe it's more on how Jade landed. But it was just unfortunate. I don't think that was anybody's fault. That was just her going into the most unfortunate part of the steel steps that had that sharp lip on it, and it got her. That's it. But man, they're so ready to jump on her. Oh, they can't wait. Anything. Oh, Nia Jax, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, they're all up in arms about Nia Jax, and I just say, shut up. Just shut up and get a life. So that happens. Jade is now busted open, and I was curious if it kind of spooked her a little bit, because I don't think she's probably ever been busted open like that. And she was looking at the camera. She was definitely riled up about it, which is good. I'm glad that it kind of gave her energy. And then we start going into the rest of the clusterfuck of this thing. When she gets back in the ring and she's got this other move now. It's called Eye of the Storm. It's kind of like a big boss man side slam sort of thing, right? So she hits Nia Jax with that, which was pretty impressive. And I guess what was supposed to happen is that Tiffany Stratton was supposed to come break up the pin. But she was late. So Nia had to kick out of that move that was really supposed to be like a finishing move. They were going to do the finish that you always see in triple threat matches, where somebody hits their move, the third combatant comes in, throws them out, jumps on the wrestler for the pin and wins the match. That's generally how they go, and that's the finish they were going for there, I think. I think Tiffany was supposed to come in, break up the pin, throw Jade off of Nia, jump on Nia, and get the pin. And so that's kind of what happened, but Nia instead has to kick out. Then Tiffany comes in and kicks Jade out of the way, and then she jumps on Nia Jax, and I guess that's supposed to be the finish, but Nia just kicked out. So now she's got to lay there like she can't kick out. She just did kick out. So it's you could see it's getting to be a mess. Nobody knows what to do now. So Tiffany now pins Nia. The referee comes in for 1 and 2 and then stops. Doesn't count the 3. Nia has not kicked out. She's just laying there. You can see her talking to the referee, and it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then finally they kind of collect themselves, and Tiffany goes to the top, hits the prettiest moonsault on Nia Jax and gets the pin and retains the championship in what up until that point was a pretty good match. Even Jade getting busted open was like a happy accident. I hope she doesn't have a permanent scar there, because that was deep. So we wish Jade the best, but I love blood. Blood's awesome when it happens, randomly or on purpose. And I think if the match if they would have finished that stronger, this would have been looked at as a really good match, I think, especially for Jade, one that she would look back at. Oh, that classic on SmackDown where I sliced my forehead open. They fucked up the finish, so I feel like it was that she got sliced open for nothing. And I wish they would have stuck the landing a little bit better on that. But in the end, it was Tiffany Stratton getting the win, which means she now heads to Crown Jewel to face, there you see her, Women's World Champion on Raw, Stephanie Vicaire. And that should be a damn good match. Right now, looking at the 2 Crown Jewel matches, I personally believe they're very predictable. I've got Seth Rollins and Stephanie Vicaire all the way. 2 wins for Monday Night Raw. I can't see Tiffany getting the win over Stephanie. I don't see the point. I would put Stephanie over, and Cody owes Seth. So Seth, if he needs the help from the Bronze or perhaps even Brock Lesnar, whatever he does or whatever trick he pulls out of his sleeve or has under his sleeve, he's going to get the win over Cody. That's my belief. So anyway, that's what happened on SmackDown on Friday. Last night on Raw, we had a couple of interesting things go down as well. We had basically the setup for the match that we knew we were going to get. I was curious when Stephanie Vaquer won the title. I'm like, what is Rhea Ripley going to do at Crown Jewel? It's in Perth. She's got to do something. Well, they've been setting the table for that in the last couple of weeks on Raw. It was pretty clear about a week or two ago that it was going to be a tag. It's going to be Rhea Ripley and Io Sky taking on the Kabukis. Last week, I believe, it was Asuka spray or misting Rhea Ripley, I believe, right? Kind of turning heel. Ripley, I think, beat her in a match, and then she misted her and that whole deal, right? Kairi Sane, is kind of a reluctant participant here. She's under the orders of Asuka, who's screaming for her now. Kairi! It's becoming a weekly thing. It's very, very funny. So now we're all here in the ring to set this whole thing up. It's Ripley and Io Sky and the Kabukis. Io Sky winds up getting the mist in her eyes, while Kairi is kind of horrified, but still, an active participant in this. And that was basically all just done to set up the tag team match, which is now official for Crown Jewel, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley versus Kairi and Asuka. So that should be a win for the baby faces. I'm glad that they're both getting something good to do, and we still have to have that match one-on-one between Rhea and Io when Rhea can finally beat her. That might not be coming until 2026. I loved that Dom got a win over Rusev. Holy shit. Intercontinental title match last night. He defends against Rusev, and he beats him with a mule kick to the man parts and then rolls him up for the win. So just low blow right to the penis, rolls up Rusev, and gets the win. Beats him. Retains the Intercontinental Championship. And he's still the AAA Mega Championship, by the way. Or champion, by the way, I should say. What do you guys think in the chat there? What do you think of the Bayley stuff so far? Are you liking it? Is it not hitting for you? I'm not that into it yet. I need to see more or better or something. So it's Raquel Rodriguez versus Bayley. She beats her with some help from Roxanne, who I think Bayley's got like the figure four on Raquel, and in comes Roxanne, rakes her eyes, and Raquel is able to beat Bayley and get the win. There's a post-match beatdown when Lyra Valkyria comes out to make the save, but then she gets beat down. Bayley then transforms into this ass kicker and takes out the heels, and she's going nuts, and she's very, very intense. And then she goes over to Lyra and picks her up and says, "Come on, you idiot, let's go get him." And she's bringing Lyra back there so they can chase down the heels, and Lyra's very, very confused about Bayley's very dramatic mood swings. And I don't, when you undergo physicals to see if you're capable of competing, it's not just physical. You need to go through mental tests too. And I just think that if Bayley has multiple personalities, you should not put her in the ring. We might need Dr. Shelby. Ring him up. They set up a little thing that was basically designed to give LA Knight a win instead of a loss, which was nice. He beat Kofi Kingston last night on Raw. And also, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes had another in-ring segment together. I liked it. They talked about their history, specifically the friendship they had around WrestleMania 40, and how Seth now, of course, as heels tend to do, he's going to downplay it, claimed it was the lesser of two evils. I was never your friend, that type of thing. So just trying to add a little bit of heat here. But maybe I wish this match wasn't at Crown Jewel, and it was for championships that I don't care about, that Crown Jewel title. I just don't give a shit. So I was kind of hoping to get this one at maybe a bigger show, where they're just facing here because they happen to be champion, and the rule is the two champions face. I'd rather see a story develop between these guys and them have another big pay-per-view encounter where Rollins can this time come out on top. But good back and forth between the two. Cody acknowledging all of their history, especially with WrestleMania 40, but also with the matches they had when Cody came in. And he referenced multiple times, or Seth did, the 3 matches, and Cody closed by saying, of those 3 matches, how many did you win? And that's precisely why Seth Rollins is going to win this one. Cody's not going 4-0 against Seth. Fuck no. Nah, that ain't happening, Jack. So I'm ready for that one. I'm excited. It's coming out at 5:30 in the morning for me, or 5 o'clock in the morning for me. I don't know what I'm going to do for Crown Jewel yet. I'm probably just going to sleep in like I normally do, wake up, watch the show, and come hit you guys with a review as quickly as I can. That's going to be a weird one to review. I don't want to take the night off of work for a show that starts at 5:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning. So I got to figure out what to do for Crown Jewel specifically. But anyway, I'll have links up for you. Also on Raw. So what's going on here? We got like 19 El Grande Americanos. This is going to be AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. I almost said AJ Lee. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee versus Los Americanos, Bravo and Ryu. And it looks to be under the masks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was watching it today, it seemed to me to be Julius Creed and Tyler Bate. Is that who is under the mask there? So not Pete Dunne. I think they should get Brutus under one too and have like a pudgy Los Americano. So anyway, this is nuts. AJ and Dragon Lee got the win. Backstage prior to the match, when they're talking about their upcoming match, AJ Styles did say that at Crown Jewel, he's going to beat up John Cena. So we did get the line. I enjoyed that. But of course, John Cena, isn't going to be on TV until Crown Jewel. And that was my big question after WrestlePalooza. I said, Cena is booked for Crown Jewel, so whatever he does is going to have to be built on social media. And it pretty much was. AJ Styles wanted him, and it was given to him, and they're just gonna have a match. Just one match in Cena's retirement run, one more classic with AJ. And I'm hoping that one is good. Like I said, on paper, Crown Jewel doesn't look too bad right now. The main event was Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed last night taking on the Usos in a tornado tag team match. The Usos got the win here when they are being overwhelmed by Breaker and Reed, and that's when we had the return of Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has been off filming the Street Fighter movie 2, just like Cody was. I think he might have been filming something else as well. Don't know, but he's back now. He showed up, and since it's a tornado tag with no DQs, he helped the Usos get the win, and he really focused his attack on Braun Breaker. So much so that it makes you think we might be getting that match as well. I mean, if they would have put this card up on WrestlePalooza, it might have looked a lot better. Now, I don't know. I kind of thought Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker would be a WrestleMania type of thing, but we might be getting it here, and we might be also getting it there. This might be Roman and Breaker at Crown Jewel, and then you get the rematch at WrestleMania, or you get the rematch down the line. Like maybe Roman wins here. And hear me out. I know, fam. No, I know. You don't like to hear that, but just listen. So Roman Reigns wins this one. But the next time they face, Braun Breaker wins, and there's a championship on the line. So this is the first crack, so to speak. And that's at the title that Braun's going to get. And that would line up because wasn't he fell short in like that first IC title match to Sammy, right? He got beat. Like Jey Uso and Sammy both beat him. It's kind of like one of the things he does. He almost gets too confident, becomes his own worst enemy. And then maybe he has a world title match and he falls victim to that again. And Roman, with all this experience that he has, is able to outlast, outsmart, and outmaneuver Braun Breaker and get the win. And then maybe next year at WrestleMania or next year at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns is now world champion. He's beaten Seth Rollins for the title. And Braun Breaker beats Roman Reigns. But I think CM Punk has got to beat Rollins for the title. So maybe it goes to Punk next, then it goes to Roman, then it goes to Breaker. It might have to be that. So if that's the case, Roman wins here, and then you reconvene 10 months from now. Now Roman's a champion. Breaker gets another shot, and this time he puts down Roman Reigns. It would be worth it. It would be part of the story, Breaker did face Roman, learned from his mistakes in that loss, had another nearly a year of matches and experience and growing and wins and momentum and confidence and all that stuff. Now he's heading into this championship match that he earns by, how do you do it? How do you get championship matches at SummerSlam again? Winning King of the Ring, right? There you go. He wins King of the Ring. Boom. SummerSlam, world title match against Roman Reigns. And he beats him. That's how you do it. So if Breakker and Roman face at Crown Jewel, I'm sorry to say this, but Roman has to win, I think. I have Breakker win later. Roman wins now. But then again, on the other side of that coin, I'll give the people who think Breakker should win some credit too. That would really help and make the Vision storyline more interesting. If you've got Breakker with a big win over Roman, and he's sitting there looking at Seth Rollins with that championship, I just beat Roman Reigns. Why the fuck am I going to listen to this guy at all anymore? I'm coming after that. So that would create tension, but they might not be ready to do that yet. And I think a Braun Breakker victory over Roman now would only create tension in the Vision. So if they're not creatively ready for that tension to happen yet, they're saving that for maybe Mania or the fallout of WrestleMania. That's another good place for it. Night after WrestleMania would be a great place to split off Braun Breakker on his own, away from the Vision. So they might have a better idea for that down the road. And if Braun beats Roman, it's going to be tough for him to sit there and just pace around the Vision, in the ring while Seth's cutting a promo as this leader when he knows he's better than everybody in the damn company. So Roman's got to win that one. If they do face at Crown Jewel, it's got to be a Roman win. And then you have Breakker win down the road. That's how I would do it. So anyway, Roman is now back. That's good. Here's what we have for Crown Jewel so far, or here's how it appears. So we obviously have Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins and Stephanie Vicaire versus Tiffany Stratton. We're also going to get AJ Styles versus John Cena. Then we have Rhea Ripley and Io Sky teaming up to take on the Kabukis, and we might get Roman Reigns versus Braun Breakker. Am I missing any matches? Let me know in the chat there. All right, we got to switch gears to AEW here in a minute, but before we do that, I'm going to look over here to the chat and see what you guys are talking about. If you haven't smashed that thumbs up button, please do it. Do so for the new setup here as we get used to all of this. I'm liking it. I'm loving the acoustics in here. It's great sound because it's heavily soundproofed, so I'm liking it. It's almost like it's a real recording booth. Anyway, we're going to move on now to a little bit of AEW news because they've got some interesting things happening, including their Florida residency coming up. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But let me see what you guys are saying. Good to see Zane G in here. What's up, bro? I'll answer those in 1 second. I just want to scroll back. Yeah, there's a few more than I thought here. So let me just go into the master super chat list, knock out a couple of these, and then we're going to just kind of talk about a couple of things going on in TNA, specifically Adam Copeland leaving for a little while. And my sources tell me that Adam Copeland versus John Cena on Saturday night's main event in December absolutely will not happen. Sorry to disappoint you, but anyway, we're going to talk about that in 1 second. All right. All right, let me shout out WWE Fan 22. Thanks for that $5 earlier. Your audio sounds great. It's always been good, but I noticed it's more crisp. What do you think of ESPN for WWE PLEs? I got a VPN to avoid it. Yeah, I haven't gone down the road of a VPN because I've just never really felt like I wanted or needed one. I haven't had a really use for one. I don't even know how much they are. If they're not expensive, I could get one, but I don't see the need. I don't just need it. But I might need it now since I canceled cable. And for example, if I want to watch SmackDown on Friday, I can't do that unless I find an illegal stream somewhere. So, so far, I have signed up for the ESPN Unlimited for the $30, and then I canceled my $80 cable because I don't need it. So I got that, and so far I like it. WrestlePalooza ran fine, and I've been using it a little bit on the TV. I downloaded the app on both of my TVs and was messing around on it, so you can put on SportsCenter or replay any game that you want, and you know, it's pretty cool. So far, I have no issue with it, and it worked fine for me for WrestlePalooza. Joshua Aparicio, thanks for the $2. Love the new set. Love the upgrade. Thank you for that, man. Zane G, For Cena's final match, Saturday night's main event should be commercial free. You would hope. Or at least, I mean, maybe you're talking about just the match. Just the match, yes, should be commercial free. And you got another 5 that says, how about a rumored Lesnar versus Breakker at WrestleMania 42? That's another match you kind of got to do, I would think, or at least maybe tease it at the Rumble. You got to at least tease it at the Rumble, but don't forget about Gunther. We were supposed to get Gunther and Brock, and we never did, so I feel like that might be first. But in terms of John Cena's final match, yes, I believe it should be commercial free, but also, like I've been saying, I think last time we went live here, I talked about this, that I think Gunther should be Cena's final opponent. I think Gunther should retire John Cena. And since he already retired Goldberg, you can make this his thing. You got AJ Styles on the verge of retirement too. Gunther retires AJ. Then if Sheamus wants to retire, Gunther retires Sheamus. You do the legend killer Randy Orton gimmick, but with retirements, and you do it with Gunther. And then, if you want to have a final Brock Lesnar match, Gunther retires him too. So I've got this gimmick in mind for Gunther. But Braun Breaker is another big one. You know, Brock is obviously smashed over huge here with that squash of John Cena. So hopefully they're building him back up as this psycho, unbeatable grizzly bear so he can start taking some losses to these next generation guys. At least you would hope. I mean, Brock came back bigger than ever. He just looked ridiculously jacked. You know, so hopefully Gunther beats him. Hopefully Braun Breaker beats him. But Brock might be winning a championship again. I'm curious about a couple of things. I'm curious if Brock Lesnar is going to beat Cody for the title at some point, because Cody, I think, beat him twice, right, before Brock left. And then also, are we going to get Roman and Brock again? You know, or are we going to get Brock and Seth again? You know, after Roman finally won the long, storied, multi-year rivalry. What, they have like 8 pay-per-view matches against each other, including a couple of WrestleManias. 3 WrestleMania matches, or was there 4? I think 3, right? Yeah, 15 or 31, 34, and then 38. 3 Mania matches, a couple of SummerSlam matches too, like big major matches. And then finally, near the end of it, Roman was getting all the wins. And they had that really fun SummerSlam match where the ring got bulldozed and Roman just finally staked his claim. I'm the man now. I really don't want to undo that. I don't want to undo that by having Brock now face Roman again and then beat him. You know, if anything, he's probably going to face or beat Cody. You know, he's got to have a match with Gunther at some point. So they're going to have to juggle it as a way to use Brock effectively and then also have him put over the people he should put over. He absolutely should lose matches to Gunther and Breaker. If these turn out to be feuds, he's probably going to win a couple of them, lose a couple of them. But, you know, those guys I think should get wins over Brock. If Brock is going to be back, you know, the way, in my opinion, you get the most money out of Brock is you use his box office draw to help others, you know. So when they beat him, it's a big deal. Because otherwise, Brock being back, I just don't even need it. And I certainly don't need him dominating to the degree that he was dominating before. That grew tiresome. So, anyway, we'll see what Brock does. But I think with Breaker, he's obviously the future, so it's up to WWE to decide how quickly they want to take that. There we go. All right, back to the chat. All right, let's talk about Dynamite right quick because we had some big news last Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. But before we get to that news, let me just run through a couple of quick things. I find it interesting that AEW is having Title Tuesday when they just had Title Wednesday last fucking week. They had a tag team title match and 2 world championship matches. No, I'm sorry, 2 world championship matches and a tag title match on Wednesday. They had Brodito successfully retaining the tag team titles over Gates of Agony. Excuse me. Excuse me. Hangman Page defeated Lee Moriarty to retain the AEW world title. Then in the main event, you had Chris Statlander defeating Mina Shirakawa to retain the AEW Women's Championship. And then after that match, Statlander was, they've been kind of teasing her maybe joining the Death Riders, but she didn't do it. She wound up knocking the shit out of Wheeler Yuta. Her and Harley Cameron run off into the crowd, and then out comes Darby Allin with a flamethrower to chase off Jon Moxley, and that's how the show went off the air. But we also had Claudio defeating Powerhouse Hobbs. Claudio had a little help from Pac in that match, and Hangman Page came out there to help out as well later on during the post-match stuff, and Hangman is kind of temporarily linked up with the Ops for the moment to try to help them out. And right now, Hangman doesn't really have a challenger for the championship. We have Wrestle Dream coming up on October 18th, but we only have one match announced so far, and that's Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin in an I Quit match. But nothing yet, so I don't know who Hangman is going to face unless it's going to be one of those pay-per-views where the world champion doesn't have a match. Maybe he's just going to be involved in some sort of tag type of thing. It's possible. Otherwise, he seems like he's a little bit lost at the moment looking for an opponent. Other than that, Orange Cassidy is back. I should mention that. The conglomeration defeated the Callis family, and that was OC's big return, so good to see him back. He had a torn pec, I believe, earlier on in the year, and he's been out for quite a while. So he came back, and he came out of this picture that Don Callis was supposed to unveil, and he came through that. There was a little bit of a technical glitch, too, when he was making his entrance, so it didn't come off very well. But OC is back, and it was good to see him back. And the other thing that happened on Dynamite, and help me out, I didn't see... Was this a video of after All Out, or did this happen on Dynamite? Anyway, it's Edge and Chris, Cope and Christian in the locker room. Christian is icing his neck. And Cope comes in and says, dude, I got to leave for a little while. You know, this is my family, you know, my wife, she was injured or whatever he said. He basically just says, like, I have to go home and I don't know if I'm going to come back. And Christian was like, yeah, go take care of your family. Like, I wish I had a family. I don't have a family. And then Cope was like, yeah, you do. And they shake hands and they part ways. So apparently Copeland is going... He's taking a little bit of time off because he's going to be filming a movie. I forget what it's called, but apparently that's why they're doing this. But it got fans all week wondering if Cope was leaving to run back to WWE real quick so he could have a match with John Cena. And as awesome as that sounds, and as that would be something that in the past I would have pitched. I've pitched a lot of small, tiny working agreement trades between WWE and AEW. If they could just get along a little bit, they could really help each other out, you know, and they could loan things out to each other. Hey, can we have Copeland for a night so he can do something with Cena, and we'll give you any footage you want of Daniel or Danielson for a video package or whatever, you know, just a little trade-off, you know, where you get two company employees who don't have the hate for each other, you know, just get one employee and representative from AEW and one from WWE just to talk about it, you know, and try to work out like a little deal. Like, that would be super fun if we could ever get to that. Years ago, I pitched an idea of swapping out Danhausen with R-Truth just for 1 week. Because R-Truth was coming out. He didn't know what fucking week it was. He didn't know what matches he was in. He's bringing ladders into Royal Rumbles, trying to reclaim belts from the ceiling. He doesn't know what's going on. So it would stand to reason that he might just randomly show up at Dynamite 1 week thinking he's at Raw. Why don't you do that? And then you can trade and have Danhausen come out from under the ring just to spook somebody out, run through the crowd, leave, never to be seen again. Just one little thing that just makes the fans smile. Like, that was fucking cool. And that would take cooperation. But those days are long gone. You got these cretins in WWE who are just counter-programming AEW every chance they get. Tony Khan lives completely rent-free. He's got a fucking mansion in their minds, and he's not paying anything for that. He's got, you know, multiple bedrooms, a jacuzzi, basketball court, the works. He sleeps in this gigantically huge double king-size waterbed, all in WWE's head. They cannot stand that he exists. So it sucks because the fans are what suffer from that type of pettiness, and if these two companies would just fucking like each other, you can still be competitors and still understand where you guys stand. But, sometimes I feel like both companies, Tony Khan at some point is going to need or want a favor from WWE and vice versa. There's plenty of favors AEW could do for them, especially if they needed a legend that they might have under contract over there, need somebody for a Hall of Fame appearance, or, somebody to induct someone, or be a part of a retirement ceremony, or be a part of a video package or a history thing or whatever, and at the beginning we saw a little bit of that. We saw Chris Jericho on Broken Skull Sessions. We'll never see those days again. We'll never see Hangman Page on Cody's podcast. How cool would that be if we did, though? Cody asked WWE, hey, can I bring one of my best friends on the podcast? Yeah, sure. Oh, by the way, he happens to be the AEW world champion. Like, I would love to live in that world, but we just don't live in that world. So, Copeland going to WWE to face John Cena is not going to happen. And he's certainly not leaving AEW because they just brought in Beth. They just brought in his wife to be a part of this story. And I also think they've taken the scenic route, very, very slow burn on getting Cope and Christian to these AEW tag team titles. We had that pegged for All In July. Here it is August, or no, what the fuck? It's October, and actually it's 5 minutes away from October if you live on the East Coast. Still a ways off for me, but it's basically October, and FTR isn't even the champions. So Brodito is, and I think Brodito is going to have a healthy run. FTR will win the championships from them, and then Cope and Christian will still win. It just might not happen until Full Gear or Wrestle Dream or whenever. Maybe they want to wait for another Canada show. I don't know. Don't know. But I still feel like that's the long-term plan, and I thought it was funny that some fans thought that Copeland might be going back to WWE to face John Cena. I just can't see a universe where that would even be remotely possible, even though it sounds great. And then, of course, the big news of Dynamite this week was the big announcement. Tony Khan had another one of these big announcements that he loves to do. He does those because they get a little bit of a ratings boost when he does them. And sometimes the announcement can be absolute shit, like means nothing at all. And other times it can be kind of significant. This is one of the more significant ones, although it's not that much of a surprise because we've known this has been in the works for quite some time. But Tony Khan announced on Dynamite that they would be beginning a women's tag team division. They then cut to Renee Paquette, who's there in the aisleway, and they have the brand new AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships, which they made some time ago. I believe they're just smaller versions of the current men's tags. They look exactly the same. And they don't look bad. So, and I love the black strap. I'm a fan of black straps. I don't like the white straps. I like the black straps. So the belts look good to me, even though they're carbon copies of what already exist. And we now have an AEW Women's Tag Team Division. So we don't know when it's going to start. All we know is we're probably going to get a tournament. And now they have a tag team division. And I think that's great. A lot of people immediately, predictably went right to, just more championships. I'm like, well, this is different. These are championships that they probably should have at this point. Maybe you could argue they don't need the TBS title, sure. But a world title and a tag team title in one women's division, I don't think is overkill. But I get there was a time when, Ring of Honor championships were all over Dynamite and just seemed like everybody had a championship belt. I get that. But both companies have this problem. WWE just added two women's secondary titles when they only needed one. All they needed to do was add an Intercontinental Championship. That's it. An Intercontinental title, floating champion. Or have the IC title on Raw and the tag team titles on SmackDown or something like that. But all you needed was one title, and they introduced two. So I get it. More championships just in wrestling in general. A lot of fans don't want that. But these are the women tag team titles. It's time to do this. And apparently it's been in the works for over a year, and they're finally now just deciding to do it. So that worries me a little bit, because we've seen how awful WWE's tag team division is, the women's tag team division. I have given zero shits about it since it began. And it was a joke right from the word go. I enjoyed Sasha and Bayley. Some fans enjoyed the Iconics. I didn't, but I did enjoy Sasha and Bayley. But that's like the only team I can think of that I really enjoyed. I'm not hating what Alexa and Charlotte are doing currently. I like their dynamic. I think it's good for Charlotte to be doing something else like this. But in terms of the championship division, they don't care about it. It's only good like literally 8% of the time. It's a bag of shit every other time, and they don't care. It's always just two people slapped together. There's no teams. Even when there are teams, they're releasing them. They don't have any teams. They're just throwing two women together, and now you're just got more belts to pass around. I care so little about the women's tag team championships that I have no clue of the lineage. Michael Cole during shows, he'll throw out stats, and he'll be like, oh, so-and-so, the 3-time tag team champion. And I'm like, I don't have recollection of even one of those times. And you're telling me she's won the title 3 times? I don't remember any of them. I don't remember anything when it comes to those tag team titles. They're so meaningless. The division is meaningless. The belts are crap. They mean nothing. Get the fuck rid of them. WWE didn't even try. A women's tag team division can be good, but WWE doesn't try. They never try. And so AEW here, they need to make absolutely sure that they are different than them. They're off to a great start. They got the Julia Hart and Sky Blue and Tekla combination there. They've got teams. They have legitimate teams in AEW. And that's good. That's a good start, because I would like their tag team division to be a team division, not a just 2 stars randomly slapped together division, which is what WWE's is. And WWE's women's tag team division is so bad that if you right out of the gate start resembling them, you have failed before you've even started. It's extremely important to do things the polar opposite to what WWE is doing. Don't just say, oh, here's our titles and let's just book it by the seat of our pants. And I know Tony Khan apparently is not going to give up any creative control to anyone, but just as a friendly suggestion, like, what would the harm be in just putting someone in charge of the women's tag team division, but maybe the women's division in general? Somebody who still reports to you. Nothing can happen without your agreement. You can still be the final say. You can be the Vince McMahon, but why not have someone heading up not only that division, but maybe the entire women's division as well? But the tag team division, if you put somebody specifically in charge of that can focus only on that and give it all of their attention, you might have a shot to do something here. And you can develop some stories and give a reason for some of these stories and these angles and these issues between the women to get out onto TV. And then that's how teams get over. And if you have enough of these things going on, you already have some teams that are already formed. They can get more exposure. They can start learning what works, finding things, finding catchphrases, connecting with the audience. And that's how teams bubble up. And then next thing you know, you might have a female New Age Outlaws on your hands, if you get lucky. But if you're just if you're just flying by the seat of your pants, and Tony Khan's the head writer of every show, of every division, he's also got football and soccer obligations, and, he's got boats and yachts and all this other shit. And I don't know how he's set up behind the scenes. I know he has people around him. I know people help him and whatnot, but in terms of who's like booking everything, it seems like he's kind of doing it all, unless that has changed. But I just, I don't see the harm, in maybe having putting someone in charge of that. I try to put that on social media, but it amazes me how the words Tony Khan can trigger an insecure male. Because I got so many comments saying, Tony Khan would never give up. I'm like, Jesus, focus on the wrong part. That's not even what I'm talking about. That's just a friendly suggestion, but the fact that that was so important to them to scream out, Tony Khan would never do that. You don't know him. From what we've heard, it doesn't sound like he wants to do any sort of an idea like that. But why does that trigger the rage? Then they got to give their little digs. He's not going to do that. If something about it's always wrestling in front of 15 people, right? Oh my God, it's the same accounts. No face, never the real face. Less than 40 followers and licking Trump's ass all through their timeline every single time with them. It's predictable as gravity. But I think, oh shit, I lost my place. I think with something like that, there we go, when it comes to being able to have this new idea that you want to succeed, you got to put some real thought into it, and then you can't forget about it, because Tony Khan might be balls in on it right out of the bat and say, I'm going to really dedicate a lot to this, making this women's division good. And then he takes his eye off the ball to focus on some other stuff and the division suffers. That can be in the future. So even if you start out great, it can always falter. So I just think that the more you expand, the more help you should probably have. And I think having maybe like a female booker, anybody but Gail Kim, basically, to, maybe just oversee that, write your matches, write your angles, and then bring it to, here you go, Mr. Khan, will you approve what I've done? And then if you give it your approval, I'm going to go get on these agents and start putting these matches together, and now you've saved a ton of time. So if Tony Khan is against this, and fans like to draw their own conclusions and assumptions, but if Tony Khan is against these ideas, I sure would like to know why. I sure would like to know what his reasonings are. I want to know why he wouldn't consider doing that. It seems so simple to us. So is it more complicated? Is there more to it behind the scenes? Is there a specific reason why he insists that he must write and book everything? He can't delegate anything out to anyone that he can still approve. Nothing goes to TV unless you say yes. What's wrong with that? So I find it hard to believe that Tony Khan doesn't have anybody helping him writing this shit. I'm sure that he does. But in terms of having someone specifically in charge of something, how like Road Dogg is the head writer on SmackDown? He doesn't have a Road Dogg, thank God. But he doesn't have anybody like that. And I think he should think about that, at least as far as we know. He might. The last thing I want to do is make any assumptions about Tony Khan, because there's enough little fucking shits online that do that every damn day of their lives. So I don't want to just assume that Tony Khan writes everything himself and nobody helps him at all. I know an Anger Boy likes to believe that, but I would like to know for sure before I just start spouting that off on my Anger Boy podcast. So we just need to know. But it feels like he's still kind of in charge of everything. And if he is, why won't you? Like, is there anybody back there that has a comfortable enough relationship with him that could ask him this? Say, Tony, imagine, if you will, you've got this beautiful women's division. Now you've got these brand new women's tag team championships, and women need, more exposure. We've got great women's wrestlers here. We got great talent. We do not want them leaving and going to WWE. So let's try to do our best with this division. Instead of you dedicating 6% of your time to this, why don't you let me be in charge of it? I'll dedicate 100% of my time, and whatever I do, I will show you, for your approval, and you can work with me instead of just devising it all yourself. We don't know if that's the case or not, but if Tony Khan is writing all these angles from the ground up, and nobody else is helping him, I find that very difficult to believe. I believe he definitely has people helping him along, that he's getting ideas from, or helping him, write out these stories, but nobody's in charge of anything other than him. So I think he should try to find maybe some head writers or some lead bookers of shows. Find yourself a Paul Heyman, how Paul Heyman was the lead writer of SmackDown for all those years. Find yourself one of him to run Collision or something, and then you can focus on Dynamite, and then you still approve and oversee everything, And so if he's not willing or not wanting to do that, I would really like a reason why. What is the downside to that? Is it all about trust? Surely by now he's got people he can trust and he feels comfortable enough with, but I don't know. So all the best to the women's tag team division, but If they start resembling anything like what WWE is doing, I'm not going to care. I'm going to care less about AEW's tag division than I am WWE's. They have to make it different, and they have a chance. They have a chance. Tony Khan should not be stupid here. He should be taking notes. He should be watching what those morons have been doing for the last 7 years. How old are those titles anyway? When did they show up? 2018? 2017? Something like that. So we're probably on 8-ish years of the tag team titles, and it's been 8 years of shit. So you got a huge sample size there that you can draw from and observe and say, look at how crappy that is. Look at how they didn't give a shit. They didn't care about those titles. Those titles were jokes. They had people walking out when they were champions. Sasha and Naomi leaving the company. Sasha's been gone. She'll probably be gone for good. She doesn't want to come back ever. She's happy in AEW, happy traveling the world, winning all these belts. She's living her dream. Best decision she ever made was, her best thing that ever happened to her was WWE saying, here, carry these meaningless titles. And she's like, this sucks. I'm out of here. Those titles are garbage. So Tony Khan cannot be a fool here. He absolutely has to make his better. And if he does, think about that. That would be something that AEW would have over WWE. Our tag team division is head and shoulders above WWE's. As my computer makes a lot of noise. And I think they should really strive for that. Make your division better. Make it stand out. Make fans say, if you want to watch women's tag team wrestling, AEW is the best place for that. Make them think that. It shouldn't be hard to do, considering how ass the WWE's tag team division is. All you have to do is just put forth minimal effort, and you should be able to outperform what WWE does with their women's tag team division, because they don't give a fuck. So if AEW starts this division and it starts rolling and fans are into it and the matches are good and they've got good teams and there's some good chemistry and there's some good, it's not all going to be good. There's going to be plenty of stuff that isn't going to hit and isn't going to land and isn't going to be good. And there's going to be some matches filled with botches. Don't just throw anybody out there, but at the same time, make sure your teams have experience and make sure your teams have issues with each other and try to create a fun division. And then occasionally slap your single stars together, because I want Chris Statlander and Willow to win those titles. At some point, you have to increase the value of those titles as well by putting them around the waist of major stars. I just don't want the entire division to be that. And that's what it's felt like it's been in WWE for the most part. Just two stars together for no reason. Here you go, you're champs. And that's just not a winning formula in my mind. So it's got to be a healthy combination of that. It's got to be mostly teams. And then every now and then you create your female brothers of destruction or something like that, where, two top stars have aligned and they said, you know what, let's go win some tag team gold together. So I'm all for that. It's just all about being able to deliver in this division. So I wish Tony Khan all the best. So here's what we got for tomorrow. Tomorrow is AEW's 6th anniversary show. And this is going to begin a 2-week run through the state of Florida. And they ran a really cool old school Florida promo in the same style with it, like the 80s kind of filter look on it, or the 70s, excuse me. And then in the background, the championship wrestling from Florida, and you had Tony Schiavone playing the role of Gordon Solie there, running through all the shows, which is going to start tomorrow night, October 1st on Dynamite. It's going to be a 2.5-hour show, so it's going to run a little bit over, and it's their 6th anniversary show. That's going to be in Hollywood, Florida. Then on Thursday, it's Collision. Collision, October 2nd, in Lakeland. And that's interesting because Lakeland is where my grandparents retired to when they got old. They lived in Michigan up until 1980 or maybe 1990. And then they moved down to Lakeland, Florida, which is the same city that the Detroit Tigers hold their spring training games. And it's a small little town. It's not big at all. And so I drove down when I lived in North Carolina. I made the trip a few times, 4 or 5 times, down to Florida to visit my grandparents. And then after my grandfather died, I drove down to visit my grandma. And they were so close to the stadium, I would always go down and time it with spring training and take in some Tiger games. One time I caught 2 foul balls in the same game and gave them both to kids. So, all those videos of people being assholes in the stands, I'm the opposite of that. Here you go, little buddy. So I went home with no balls that night. It was very sad. But Lakeland. So I've been to Lakeland a bunch of times. It's very, very small. A lot of older folk communities there and stuff, but spent some time in Lakeland in my life. So that's where Dynamite's going to be this coming Thursday for Collision. I'm sorry, where AEW is going to be this Thursday for Collision. Then next week, this is where it gets weird. Like I said, for some reason, they have moved Dynamite next week from Wednesday to Tuesday. So on October 7th, it's going to be AEW Dynamite Title Tuesday. That is going to be going head-to-head with the TNA and NXT showdown or invasion big show on Tuesday. So NXT is going to win that ratings battle. Sorry, they're going to. They're pulling pretty good numbers already from the CW. So I think what AEW will put a dent in those numbers, but they won't beat them. I think CW will probably do significantly less numbers, but it'll probably still be more than Dynamite. That's my belief on it. We'll see. What have they been doing? What have they been pulling, like 700,000, 800,000, maybe between 6 and 800, which is kind of close to Dynamite, so actually a little bit more. So I think they've been somewhere in that neighborhood for NXT. So if they were to pull a number like that while another show is head-to-head, that's pretty impressive. Or if they pull 1 million viewers or something like that, that would be even crazier. But I just don't think TNA has the drawing power for that, to bring in that many viewers. We will see. But in terms of who wins the week, it's got to go to NXT. That's their home night. They're already pulling good numbers on CW. Dynamite is moving nights, and they already don't pull, any higher usually than NXT anyway. So how are they going to go over there and then beat them? So NXT is definitely going to win the ratings next week, but it will be interesting to see those shows go head-to-head. And like I said, we might be here doing like a double watch-along. And incidentally, Title Tuesday next Wednesday will be at Daly's Place. It's going to be AEW Homecoming. So Tuesday, Dynamite at Daly's Place. And then on Wednesday, they're doing Collision. So this has to be because of, the baseball playoffs or something like that. That's what's going on right now. Detroit Tigers picked up a win. San Diego Padres did not. So that's actually the World Series I was hoping to get, just so I can be divided and torn and not know what to do. But next week, it'll be Homecoming in Daly's Place, Dynamite Tuesday, Collision Wednesday. But for tomorrow's show, as you see the graphic here on the screen, you've got the Death Riders. They're going to be taking on Hangman Page, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Samoa Joe. Also a mixed tornado tag team match with Darby Allin and Statlander teaming up to take on Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir. You got a trios match, Josh Alexander and the Young Bucks teaming up with a returning Kenny Omega. Good to see him back. I thought he might be out a while. He'll be teaming up with Brodito in that trios match. And we are getting Kyle Fletcher defending the TNT title against Orange Cassidy. This was supposed to be Hologram, but Hologram would be injured. I'll talk about that in a minute. And also, Timeless Tony Storm returns to Hollywood, although it's Hollywood, Florida, and also a return of Jurassic Express. So we've seen Jurassic Express reunite. We're in the process of seeing the Acclaimed reunite as well. So AEW busting out some old guns here. And 6 years is pretty impressive. They've now long since outlasted Nitro. Pretty good milestone there. 6 years and counting for AEW. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention this too. On Collision, on Saturday, we had, like I said, Hologram got injured. He was injured at the hands of Kyle Fletcher, and they made an announcement that he's going to be out for the rest of 2025. So I guess that was an injury angle that they ran because he suffered some sort of an injury, and it was right in the process of them doing that cloning thing with him. So he's going to be out a while. That sucks. And then later on in the night, Fletcher did retain his TNT championship over Commander, and he was supposed to face Hologram tomorrow on the 6th anniversary show, but of course, Hologram's injured. It's going to be OC instead. And also, on Collision, this was fun. Why do I forget their names again? is it Triangle of Madness? It's Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and Tekla. So it's Jamie Hayter versus Julia Hart, basically. Jamie Hayter beats her. After the match, Blue and Tekla attack. Queen Aminata comes out to make the save. And then Jamie Hayter gets on the mic and challenges the three of them to a blood and guts match. So we're going to get a women's blood and guts match, and we've even gotten the date and location of that. It's going to be November 12th in my old stomping grounds of Greensboro, North Carolina. Blood and guts is going to take place in a building that I have seen wrestling in many times in my life. Also the same site as Sting's final match for Revolution a couple years ago. So Blood and Guts coming up November 12th in Greensboro. I'm assuming it's at the Coliseum. It just says Greensboro. It might not be. It might not be. It might be a different building in Greensboro. I don't know. It might be a smaller one. But anyway, Blood and Guts, November 12th in Greensboro. I'm assuming it's at the Coliseum, but shit, it actually might not be. Not totally sure. And that just leaves us with Wrestle Dream. All we have so far is one match. It's, of course, Jon Moxley and Darby Allin in an I Quit match. And that's the only match officially announced right now for Wrestle Dream. So what else are we going to get? What's our TNT title match going to be? MJF is out right now. Will Ospreay is out right now. Swerve is out right now. Who does Hangman Page face at the pay-per-view? That's why I think it might be some sort of a tag team deal with the Ops. They might just put him in that and not have him defend the title at all if he doesn't really have a challenger. So, yeah, I don't know how Wrestle Dream is shaping up, but I'm sure the I Quit match will be incredible. But the rest of it remains to be seen. Okay, thank you, Juliet. Oh, I thought it was 2018. Okay, 2019 was when the women's tags returned to WWE. Wow. I don't know why I thought 18, but yeah, I guess that makes sense too, 2019. So they're only 6-ish years old, give or take, and so far, they've sucked. Yeah, Rodrigo, I didn't really, I was watching a little bit of the Gail Kim stuff. I didn't really care because she just kept going on and on and on. And I don't know if it was what it was in reference to, because I thought the Riho stuff was a while back, but I did see how she was getting criticism for commenting on Rio's size, and Rio was the victim of just insane bullying by mostly little anger boys. It's just crazy how all the same they are. And it ran her off the fucking site years ago. And so Gail Kim kind of, I think, instigated bringing all of that up again. And a lot of fans were giving her shit. And then it just became this thing where she was going to be voicing all of her criticisms on AEW, and then fans who are getting upset at her for being an asshole. Now all of a sudden, oh, the sickos are coming after me. Their fans are crazy. All the same shit they all say. I interact with all these fans all the time. I've never been yelled at by a sicko before. I've been accused of being in the pocket of both companies. WWE must be paying you. AEW must be paying you. Fans don't know which way is up. They just know their heads are in their asses. So I didn't even, so all of that stuff, the fans were just, I think it was getting them riled up. And then you had the Jimmy Corderases and the Jim Cornettes who are, fucking speaking up and amplifying this shit. And then she just kept going on and on. By then I'd even forgotten about it. And I'm looking through Twitter and I'm like, she's still going. It's like 2 days later and she's still quote tweeting people. And it just seems like she's got this, all of a sudden, these issues with AEW, and she's coming across, she's tweeting like a Jimmy Corderas, just like an asshole. And he blocked me because I fucking ripped him to shreds. He didn't even respond. Even I was laughing. I'm like, I bodied him, and he blocked me, and he's not going to ever talk to me again. But her tweets were coming off just like that. Go to Jimmy Corderas' social media, his Twitter page or X page, whatever, and read it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's that type of thing. And she's just going on. And then, like, when the whole subject should have been dropped and forgotten, she's still going. And BJ Bethel had tweeted out that he had heard from a source that she reached out to AEW or reached out to people in AEW about a potential opportunity there, and she didn't get any response. Now, again, that's just a tweet. No proof or understanding of whether or not that's true or not. But let's say hypothetically it's not true. Okay, then forget it. It's not an issue. Let's say it is true. It makes a lot of sense because we've already seen that in the community. You see that on social media. You see that from wrestlers. You see it from podcasters. Something that you saw. Eric Bischoff is a great example, where he appeared on Dynamite, but Tony Khan did some interview. I don't remember when or where it was or what he even said, but he said something about something pro AEW and anti WCW, and it just triggered Eric Bischoff, and he's been a butthurt little bitch ever since. And so whenever something like that happens, like all of a sudden, they start getting pissed. If a wrestler wants an opportunity and they don't get it, all of a sudden they're anti-AEW now. They're retweeting Cornette stuff. If you don't get into a party, all of a sudden they're public enemy number one. If you can't get a job as an agent, all of a sudden you're going to start, talking like Jimmy Corderas. It's so unbelievably typical and transparent. Because when you see stuff like that, I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. It still remains to be seen if it's true or not. But if it is, it's like, well, that makes sense because we've already seen examples of that, and that happens to WWE as well. Sometimes WWE mails people shit back to them in a trash bag, and she honestly is pretty cool with it. Her husband's actually a GM, but think of some of the horrible things WWE has done and some of the enemies they've made. A guy named CM Punk, ring any bells? Colt Cabana podcast, holy shit. But think of the things he dealt with. He felt like he got done wrong and he just raked him over the coals. So people find whatever reason they need, to hate things or whatever, but like that really does check out because that's the type of behavior you do see. I could understand that. You reach out to somebody, they don't respond. Now you're mad. And now all of a sudden you're going to be looking for things to hate about that company because they have no interest in you and it upsets you. So now you're lashing out. It's, I took like 2 semesters of psychology classes in college, like the most minuscule amount. And I learned enough in those classes to be able to see so through this shit, and it should be so easy to spot, at any time. Like, that makes a lot of sense. What are you butthurt about? So I didn't really care about the Gail Kim stuff. And I was only a casual observer of it. I don't even have the details written down. I didn't even write her in my notes because I didn't care. I was reading it like as it was happening. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck she's even talking about, but it sounds like she was an asshole to Rio. The fans got her on her case about it. And then she got all defensive and now all of a sudden painted every AEW fan as just some fucking crazy person, which is not true because I am an AEW fan. Have I ever once screamed so bad on this podcast that I've slobbered? I've slobbered, but not from screaming. But no, it's not what we do. Am I crazy? Am I attacking people online, who don't like an AEW show? No, I don't give a shit if you don't like it or not. Greg, I hated Dynamite. Good. I might have hated it too, or I might have liked it. I don't really care what you like or not like. I'm not going to try to convince you the other way. It shouldn't bother anybody what anybody likes. So she's someone that, I've always had a lot of respect for. Was a great women's wrestler. She got major cool points for me when she walked right out of that battle royal on Raw. I loved her for that. It's like, so I think it always disappoints me when wrestlers who are above this type of chatter engaging in it, I'm like, oh my God, Gail Kim, you're so much better than the Jimmy Corderases of the world, because those are the dime a dozen. They're everywhere. They're roaches all throughout social media, saying the same shit, going on and on, timelines that are just never ending. You can scroll for miles and miles, and they never shut the fuck up about AEW and Tony Khan. And it's their lifeblood. This is how they entertain themselves. In the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day when there's a beautiful sun out and blue sky, and they're on social media having a collective public whack-off session about all the things they don't like about AEW and all the things that they've convinced themselves about Tony Khan that they hate with a passion. Meanwhile, you got Vince McMahon shitting in the hair of women that he's sex trafficking, and that's all good. We're going to do this when we see him. This wrestling community is as fuck nuts as this country is. And all that stuff was just insane. And I think Gail Kim should be better than that. Don't get caught up in that. Be more mature. She quote tweeted BJ and debunked, or at least denied, what he was claiming there. She was, you don't know what you're talking about, or whatever. And he's like, okay, well, would I just make that up? What would be the point of that too? But of course she's denied that, but it does check out and it does fall in line with things that we've already seen. AEW disses you and then all of a sudden you're on a fucking hate mission. And I think the biggest example of that is Eric Bischoff. He's the best example. And there's a few of him, but he's the best, because everything was fine, but now you can just see, you can read between the lines, even when he tries to be, positive, he's not. It's in such bad faith. Everything he says is in bad faith. And when it comes to them. So, and it's all just because of personal insecurity, just so insecure. That's what insecure men do. They lash out and they yell and they get angry and they can't control their clear and obvious, hate and bias, over something so stupid. Who cares, Gail Kim? Who cares they didn't call you back? Going on a mission of hate against them. I don't get that. There are reasons to go on hate missions. There are against a company, and that's not one of them. But anyway, that kind of is the end of my notes. So we kind of caught up here. This was nice. We were able to get caught up on all of the stuff that we missed, the news, the results. It allowed me to practice here in the new setup. It's very easy. It's so much better. I love it so much. So thanks, guys, for hanging out tonight. I'll see what else you guys are saying in the chat, knock out any more super chats, and then we will call it a night. And then I will plan to be here, I guess on Saturday. We'll do a podcast, whatever's going on. It might not be a very big podcast because I don't know if a lot's going on news-wise this week. It depends on what we see tomorrow on Dynamite, what we see this Friday on SmackDown. But we're kind of in this lull period right now, between Crown Jewel and you got Wrestle Dream on the horizon. It's late September, early October. This period is generally a little flat. So there might not be much to talk about on Saturday. We will see. But you should see me Saturday for the podcast. And then, of course, this Sunday for No Mercy 1999. Zane, let me grab that last $10 from you. Thank you so much, my friend. I know it's two completely different things by a landslide. Would fans be more inclined to shit on Lesnar's return at SummerSlam or TNA using Tessa Blanchard? Well, I think Brock, because Brock, Tessa is an asshole. Brock, his involvement in that lawsuit is a much bigger story, I think, than Tessa just being a racist asshole. But they're both kind of equally gross. But I almost think Tessa might be rejected stronger, than Brock at this point, because Brock is back in the fan. We're just living with him. We're like, well, what can we do? But Tessa, they might be a little bit louder about it. You know what I think would be fun? They're not going to do it because it's such a joke, but at the Invasion or the Showdown match, I think it'd be fun if it was like AJ was the big defector, but he's about to face John Cena. But if they do some sort of war between TNA and NXT, it would be fun if like AJ was the deciding factor. Like if they did that big, how they're doing that big 4-on-4 match, and how Austin turned in Invasion. Or at Invasion, if you had AJ coming out and turning or doing something and playing the role of Steve Austin, might be kind of fun, but I don't think they're going to do that. Madison Rayne, there you go. Yeah, right. And Tyson Kidd, he's very, very hands-on with the women's division. He's kind of like their lead agent or lead producer, and he's there handling a lot of the big women's matches, and they love him. So, having someone like that, I'd be into it, I should say. All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us here in the new little area, and I got some practice, so I think I'm ready to go for future streams and future watch-alongs, and I'll start dialing this in more with my centering and my lighting and getting everything where I need it to be. And, thanks again, guys, for being here, and thanks for hanging out for, 2.5 hours? Jesus. I knew I was taking my time, but I didn't think it had been that long. Elizabeth's probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. All right, I better get out of here and get on with my night. You guys have a great one. I appreciate you being here, and I'll be catching you Saturday for the podcast, and I probably will have some other content on the channel now that I'm finally done with all of my responsibilities, I can get back to my shorts and my reactions. So keep a lookout for that. And I will be talking to y'all real soon. Have a good one. Peace.